Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News Channel. Hello, Mavericks and new viewers from all over the world. Great to have everybody here tonight. The world is watching not only this channel, but apparently the Universal Ostrich Farm out in Edgewood, British Columbia as well. They've stolen our slogan, the world is watching. But that's okay. We won't even charge them for it. Copyright free, gratis. Enjoy. We'll bring you up to date on what's happened out there. A lot of commotion this morning as they thought CFIA, maybe police, somebody might have been on the way to the farm. We'll tell you what's happening with that and how they're ramping things up, and we'll get into a possible U.S. connection to what's happening at the ostrich farm. Also, that bridge, that supply bridge heading into Crimea, boy, it's not very good shape tonight. It's been hit by the Ukrainian forces, an explosion on the foundation of the bridge. Another amazing, well-planned attack by Ukraine, and that bridge severely damaged tonight. We'll show you that. Mike McCarrick is going to join us on the broadcast to bring us up to date on that. Also, if you're in Russia and you're near a window, you might want to steer clear. We'll explain why. And what else do we have for you tonight? Man, the one big beautiful bill, Elon Musk and Rand Paul coming out criticizing the bill, and even Trump. So Donald Trump not too happy tonight. Stay with us. There's lots to unpack on the other side of this.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Okay, I'm going to try to fix my microphone. So give me a moment because we're going through this microphone issue again, audio issue. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay. I'm here. Do we have audio now? Yes, we do. And I think our audio is better. So let's bring Mike McCarrick in. He's waiting in the wings. There he is. Hello, sir.
Hello. How are you tonight, Rick?
Well, I'm okay. You don't sound very healthy.
I'm a little froggy.
Yeah.
I tested positive for COVID again, but if it is, it's a minor case. But it's combined with all that Canadian wildfire smoke that's blowing through my area. So yeah, I'm a little froggy. We'll see if my voice lasts or not.
Well, sorry about sending all that down there from Kanakistan. Sorry about that.
Well, I used to live out west, so the wildfire smoke in Colorado was a thing as well.
Yeah, and with everything going on out at that crazy ostrich research facility in British Columbia, I'm sorry if we sent you COVID too. So apologize on two fronts.
I hadn't even heard of the ostrich thing. That's got to be one of the more absurd things going on right now.
It's absurd.
Yes.
It's absurd. It's the strangest story I think I've ever come across.
For crying out loud.
Anyway, that's our problem on the Canadian side. Although I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Let's move on. Okay. But this is another amazing story about incredible military planning. I don't even know how they got this done. This is Ukraine attacked that bridge that ties Crimea into Russia.
And you should note this is the third time Ukraine has attacked that bridge. Although, as far as I know, it's only the second successful time.
Unbelievable. Like, I don't know if it's because the planning is so good or if it's because the Russian defenses are so inadequate. But here's what it looked like from above. And it's just amazing.
Oh, geez. That must have been the second attack. That doesn't look like the Kerch Bridge to me.
No.
Now,
okay,
so that to me looks like it's... So the bridge over the Kerch Strait is so long, and it's got a big causeway. So this is actually possibly part of it.
You know, I think that was the one where they... Isn't that the bridge that was from about a year ago, I think. Hang on.
So there are
this is the one that they posted here. I think this is the video, right? Let me pull that audio down. Is this it? Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So the Crimea you can't get supplies into without crossing a bridge. And there's two bridges on the north end of Crimea that that other video might have been. And Ukraine's been systematically destroying that one as quickly as Russia rebuilds the two northern ones. Because those are within ATACMS range. And so they go after them with somewhat frequency.
And so it hasn't taken the whole bridge down, but what I did notice tonight
So did you, sorry, I sent you a very late email. And one of them has a solitary diagram of the bridge structure.
All right. Okay, I see. Well, there's a still image of it. I'll bring that up so people can see while I get the other stuff set up. Holy smokes. I don't know how they get in there to plant the explosives.
Well, while you're looking for that, so I was going to mention that I'm not overly surprised because I've been watching Ukrainian innovation from the start. And hey, I'm wearing my Russian cruiser go F yourself t-shirt. And it's just one of those things from the start because that Russian cruiser was just sunk by two Ukrainian Neptune missiles that we didn't necessarily know was operational. And so right from the beginning, they've been surprising the world with what they can do. And their advancement in drone tech, which includes, sometimes it gets ignored, includes sea surface, which recently they started mounting Sidewinder missiles on sea drones, and they took down a jet and a helicopter with the Sidewinder missile launched off of basically a repurposed jet ski. So they've just been doing all that, and they've got underwater sea drones. They've got one that's basically any of your World War II nerds out there. If I talk about frogmen and midget submarines and things like that, Ukraine has an underwater submersible drone that looks like one of those World War II frogmen kind of a things. But the one with the diagram, that initial video explosion on the basic bridge support, is that was reportedly placed carefully, where they actually went demolition crew, and they over a span of 6 months, they were placing explosives in specific parts of that bridge support. This picture is this is not what I was looking for. This is one. Yeah. This shows the 4 airfields that were hit in their geographic distribution, and you can see one of them is all the way out at Lake Baikal. There was a separate attack even further east, out near Vladivostok, which is north of Japan, but that was 7 to 10 days ago, and that one was a little muddled, and that area of Russia is so sparsely populated and so highly secured that getting news out of there is weird, and the fact that we got reports of the attack alone are kind of interesting.
Okay, I have the other image you're looking for here. I'm just processing it. It'll be up in just a moment.
Yeah, so kind of the evolution of what Ukraine is doing, a lot of this makes sense because Ukraine has learned that they can't rely on the United States, that we have not been a reliable partner. And Europe is gaining an ability to help, but they're not there yet. They're not quite a U.S. replacement yet, although they're working on it. And so Ukraine has been innovating on their own. And so all of this is, if you were desperate to protect your family and your home, and you'd got war crimes going left and right, you would spend a lot of time and brain power going, okay, how can I use what I have here to best effect? So you can see this one, there's some confusion or debate about which part of the bridge structure was hit. And so you can see that there is the closest span is the railway span, and then there's an automobile span, and they are not structurally linked to each other, as far as I know. If they are, it's not a major link. But there's some debate whether this hit the auto side or the railway side, but this is further muddled, fog of war with, there was reportedly a second strike on this span later in the afternoon. So there was one in the morning, and then there was one mid-afternoon that was likely from a mobile thing. But you can see that explosion that we showed. You've got the strut, the pylon going down from the bridge, and then it's got that base that sits on the seafloor, and then it's got all of those pilings sunk down into the sand and the silt, and hopefully trying to hit some bedrock. And what Ukraine did is they went after that very basic support. So this is not like in one of the earlier attacks where they used a lot of explosives on a truck to bring some of the spans down, but nothing, the structure of the bridge was still there. So, but Russia could replace the cement span, and it was up and running again. It wasn't a simple thing. It was a big attack, but it was fixable. But if you're going after the basic structure like this, then that's kind of an issue. Like I said, there's a debate whether it's the railway side or the car side. We'll see in the coming days. Fog of war is real. And sometimes placing it from the little tidbits that you get out of a very highly restricted zone for journalism. So the Kerch Bridge and Crimea aren't exactly hot spots for free journalism. So any imagery that we get out of there has got to be sneaked out at some way. So we'll see what actually happened in the coming days, but it was definitely one. You can see that there's 2 on the railway side and 2 on the road side. One of them got struck. One of the sides got struck. So there's some basic fundamental structural problems with the bridge now.
Man, like I know Russia has been trying to protect that vigorously,
Yes.
and yet they still
Anti-air systems.
Yeah.
They I sent you the Warzone article that has some pictures of they placed barges there, and in between the barges are nets meant to catch both surface and undersea drones. This goes all the way back World War II torpedo nets. One of the problems with World War II in Pearl Harbor, Japan was successful hitting our battleships with torpedoes because we hadn't strung up the torpedo nets that are meant to halt that kind of a thing. So yeah, Russia has been doing as much as I'm going to rag on Russia for their incompetence. Sometimes they do things that are smart. And those barges with the nets were smart. Those were smart things to do.
So I think
and it made Ukraine's job more difficult. But from what I've been reading, the way Ukraine got around that is they didn't make it obvious. They moved something in very slowly that wouldn't be noticed. It wouldn't create a wake. Nobody would know it was there if they weren't like underwater looking directly at it. And they used that sort of slow thing and directly placed charges on those supports to make sure that they cut where they wanted to cut, and it wasn't going to be a haphazard kind of a thing.
Now,
yeah, that's you can kind of sort of see that looks like a midget submarine or something special forces would ride underwater. In World War II, they started out as repurposed torpedoes. This is it has a much bigger diameter than any torpedo now. Yeah, that's what you're looking at. It's on its trailer. This is one of Ukraine's submersible drones. This is a very low-tech option. America has some of these as well, which, as you would guess from America, ours is much more expensive. But this one is less capable, but it obviously did the job.
It's just amazing that they got this done.
Yeah, well, like I said, if you've got this sort of existential threat to not yourself, but your home, the people you care about, you've got a lot of highly motivated Ukrainians and a lot of really smart, highly motivated Ukrainians that are working the problem.
Well, the Donald Trump said Zelensky has no cards, but in the last few days,
I send that to you where that became a question? I don't remember who I talked to about that because I started thinking about that this morning where Zelensky's in the White House and Donald Trump, the idiot that he is like, you got no cards because he obviously has no idea what's been happening the past 3 years. He hasn't seen the innovation. Nobody told him. I don't know what's going on in his brain or his advisors. But in that moment, when Trump is telling Zelensky he has no cards, both the strategic bomber attack and then this Kerch Strait Bridge attack, the preparations were not only in motion, they were almost complete. And so the Kerch Bridge is important to Ukraine because if you cut the 3 main bridge accesses into Crimea, Crimea is isolated. It would be almost impossible for Russia to defend, at least long term. And the Black Sea has already been denied to the Russian Navy, so there's all sorts of complications getting military supply into Ukraine, into Crimea, because what you need is heavy. Ammunition's heavy, fuel is heavy. Enough food for enough troops to defend is heavy. So yeah, Crimea is important, but it's mainly important for Ukraine. But the attack on the strategic bomber base, something that we didn't necessarily touch too hard on, but with Russia making the nuclear weapon threats for the past 3 years, Ukraine did the world a favor because, as I mentioned in a different podcast, threatening the use of indiscriminate weapons that would kill civilians by the hundreds of thousands, so nuclear weapons, that is in itself a war crime, explicitly spelled out in one of the Geneva Conventions. Threatening nuclear war is a war crime. And Ukraine took out 25% reportedly of Russia's strategic bomber force. These are nuclear capable bombers, and Russia today has 25% fewer of these delivery aircraft than they did a week ago. So Ukraine did the world a service because you got somebody threatening nuclear war, and Ukraine took a large chunk out of their ability to conduct a nuclear war.
Yeah, and I'll have to bring this back up on the screen. You can see here that the bridge is out of service tonight. I'm just if you Google it, if you're over there and you're checking traffic, no, that's not it.
Yeah, that was the submersible again.
Yeah.
There was a report that the auto side was open again, but who knows when that video was happening, because Russia propaganda, who knows. But then maybe somebody decided they were brave enough to drive their car. Oh, temporarily closed. There you go.
Yeah.
You can see one of the older attacks there. That black and white picture shows the fire on the rail portion and the drop spans on the automobile portion, but there's nothing. So the fire and concrete do not go well together. That fire on the rail side permanently weakened the rail side. It limited the weight that the rail can take, but those there's nothing wrong with the vertical struts. The drop spans on the automobile side had been fixed. It took them months and months to fix it, but those have been fixed because the vertical supports were not harmed in that truck bomb.
Yeah, there's just a map of the area. So that shows the strategic importance of it and the fact that Ukraine wants it back.
Mm-hmm. And I don't remember if I don't know if your viewers remember this was however long ago where because that rail portion had been weakened, Russia had it's weight restricted, and like I said, what they need to deliver to their units in Crimea is heavy. They had been delivering fuel on those ferries that were crossing the very similar part. It was right near the Kerch Strait. Some of the SAM batteries could protect both the ferry crossing and the bridge. But then Ukraine was sinking the ferries. So this has been an ongoing campaign by Ukraine. It's not a one-off. It's not just one of those amazing one and we're done. This is an ongoing campaign. So we'll see if this is the one that actually takes it down. We'll see.
What the timing must be related to these, to the peace talks that we've seen.
So this Kerch Bridge, I was reading that it was much less involved than the bomber thing, which was evidently 18 months of planning. This one was 3 to 6 months from what I read. Again, grain of salt, fog of war. This is 6 months past the election. One of the things that we learned about Donald Trump is that there are certain things that will get his attention. And he likes to be associated with winners. And he doesn't like losers. So if Ukraine can achieve victories like this, it really doesn't make Putin look good. And if Putin's claiming that he's winning, but he's just getting his teeth knocked out on all of these Ukrainian attacks, then this goes to convincing Trump that maybe Putin's the wrong horse to back.
And if you're winning, I don't think that, generally speaking, you would have your military leaders falling out of windows.
You got a different picture, but yeah, same guy. This is reports, unconfirmed as yet, because one of those things that necessarily what you see online isn't necessarily true, but something like this at least makes sense. So this I can't pronounce the name, but he is the commander of Russia's air forces. And reports are coming out that he fell out of the window of a tall building.
Yeah.
So did we cover the 9mm hemorrhage? I know I mentioned it before, where in the Cold War, in the Soviet Union Cold War, the anybody that failed or somebody that was in disgrace over this, that, or the other thing would often end up dead, and the KGB would say something about, yeah, this poor person died of a brain hemorrhage, and the CIA started calling them 9mm hemorrhages because the KGB took them out. The people falling out of tall buildings has been the modern Putin equivalent, and it wouldn't be the first time. There's been a lot of high-ranking Russian officials that have done swan dives off of tall buildings.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to bring up another image here from a Google search. I'm just processing this as well. Again, if you're winning, why do you have so many of your top military commanders resigning or dying? Let's bring this back up here again.
Yeah, and Ukraine's been targeting them, and this makes sense because if you're fighting a war, if you can take out one of the commanders, and so there's all sorts of high-ranking Russians that Ukraine has taken out, a lot on the battlefield. But yeah, this doesn't surprise me. So
that's just four that pop up without really even. I just was searching for the information on the Air Force commander, and these other names all pop up.
Well, and Ukrainian, I don't want to say special forces, probably special services, their version of the CIA, I think, has been operating inside of Russia. So some of these have, if it's a car bomb, it's most likely Ukrainian action. I don't want to rule out that that's how Russia took out one of their people, but there's been several car bombings that Ukraine has claimed credit for.
Yeah, well, they're far from done, and it just shows that that warfare, the nature of warfare, has changed. Technology is changing everything, and they're being they're very resourceful, very creative in the way that they're fighting.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Ukraine in some ways is actually getting stronger. Of course, I'm Air Force veteran, but so Air Force tends to be one of the things I focus on. Ukraine started this war with 120 something combat aircraft, but they were really old, tired, looted of some basic parts like radar warning receivers. Electronic countermeasures were just not there because they had been looted in years past, in the 90s or even back to the 80s. And so these were really tired aircraft. And their missiles were old. They were 80s era Soviet missiles that weren't very good. They were good for 1982, but this is 2022 when this started. Ukraine bottomed out at 60 aircraft last summer. In July, that was their lowest number of combat aircraft, was 60. So Russia, for one thing, they couldn't even take out an old, tired Air Force of only 120 total aircraft. But now Ukraine is, they're reportedly up to 30 or 40 F-16s. Possibly already have those Swedish AWACS planes operating. And at least a small handful of, there's a Mirage jet, which I don't remember if we talked to. It's the Mirage 2000. Yeah, I'm going to screw this up. I believe the 5F variant, 2000-5F, I believe is the variant that Ukraine has been receiving. It's a modernized Mirage 2000. So this is 45 to 50 odd modern Western aircraft. These have all been modernized. They're these jets are potent adversaries to anything Russia is currently flying. And in that strategic bomber base attack, one of the things that we have video and still photography confirmation of is that one of the Russian AWACS planes was damaged or destroyed. They're A-50s. Ukraine's shot down 2 of them, damaged 2 others, and this would be yet another one. The generous estimate of how many of these aircraft Russia had at the start of the war was 8 to 10. That's generous. It was more likely 6 or 7. And if Ukraine's already destroyed 2 and damaged 3 more, Russia might only have 2 or 3 of these that are still flyable. Generous, they might have as many as 6, but they can't refuel midair from what I've read. They only have a 6-hour endurance. And so if you have 1 down for maintenance, you need a bare minimum of 5 to maintain 24-hour coverage over 1 section of the battlefield, because their radar can only cover about 400 miles. So that's only 1 section. And I mentioned 5 aircraft for a 6-hour endurance because they have to take off. They have to get to station to relieve the jet that's currently going, and then that jet has to return. So you need to have some overlap. So you have to have a minimum of 5 of those jets operational for 1 section. And if they only have 2 or 3 or 4, that means that they have AWACS gaps. And not only that, they can only cover 1 section of the battlefield at a time anyway. So that's some very serious air defense holes that Russia currently has. And Ukraine's been taking out radars left and right, S-400, S-300 radars, Panzer, Buck, all the rest of them. Ukraine's been systematically taking them out. So, there's some serious holes in Russia's air defense. So now that Ukraine has 40 to 50 modern Western jets, plus 2 Swedish highly sophisticated AWACS birds. Those have radars that can actually function as electronic warfare. They can do electronic attack. And I mean, they can send viruses to Russian electronics. That is one of their capabilities. These are the Ukrainian Air Force is so much more capable today than they were 3 years ago. So in some ways, Ukraine has more capability now that in this ongoing war, Russia has a 25% degraded strategic bomber force, but Ukraine's air force is stronger. So it's just, Russia is not winning.
Clearly. And everything is changing. Did you see Keir Starmer's speech from, was this 2 days ago, I believe?
Was this him talking about British defense spending?
Yeah, I'll just run a little bit of this. We didn't even get to this yet because of the ostrich story.
I read an article about the British defense spending this morning, but see if this is what I read about.
And today, following through on this review, I want to set out 3 fundamental changes that we're going to deliver. First, we are moving to warfighting readiness as the central purpose of our armed forces. When we are being directly threatened by states with advanced military forces, the most effective way to deter them is to be ready. And frankly, to show them that we're ready, to deliver peace through strength. Now, Britain has the finest servicemen and women in the world. We're showing them the respect that they deserve by delivering the biggest armed forces pay rise in 20 years, and by pledging today that we will end the hollowing out of our armed forces. We'll build a fighting force that is more integrated, more ready, more lethal than ever, backed by a stronger strategic reserve, fully trained and ready to mobilize at any time. Second, everything we do will add to the strength of NATO. As we step up to take greater responsibility for our collective defense, the NATO alliance means something profound. that we will never fight alone. It is a fundamental source of our strategic strength. That's why our defence policy will always be NATO first, something that's written through this review. The transformation we are driving in our defence must add up to Britain's biggest contribution to NATO since its creation, so that when we're building new capabilities at home, we are making our allies safer too, strengthening Europe and strengthening our bridge to the US as Britain's first partner in defence. Third, we will innovate and accelerate innovation at a wartime pace, so we can meet the threats of today and of tomorrow as the fastest innovator in NATO. Now, this doesn't mean replacing people or hardware. Quite the opposite. It means learning the lessons of Ukraine, which I've discussed many times with President Zelensky, to ensure that every capability we have works seamlessly together. Drones, destroyers, AI, aircraft, each different branch of our armed services fully integrated to create an army which is 10 times more lethal by 2035. And in delivering all of this, we are more ambitious than ever for the change it can bring. To deliver not just security for our country, but renewal too. After the Cold War, many nations cut defence spending, freeing up public funds, creating what was called a peace dividend, which people felt in their public services and in the quality of their lives. Faced with new circumstances today, we must deliver for working people again, to seize now a defence dividend for the British people, using this moment to drive jobs and investment throughout the country, like here in Govan, providing local opportunities, skilled work, community pride, ensuring that everyone across the United Kingdom has a role to play in this effort, yes, but also that everyone has a stake in its success. And I want to spell this out very simply. To achieve this, we're going to build, we're going to use this investment and this once-in-a-generation reform to drive renewal up and down the nation, creating new jobs, creating skills and opportunity, driving huge growth in industrial capacity.
Whoa. Well, and he's not the only one. The United Kingdom's not the only nation that's talking like that. They're a little bit late to the game, but there's some caveats there because the United Kingdom had been investing in some trying to figure out the best way to say this. So when you're preparing for a future conflict, if you see a future conflict on the horizon, you need to start as quickly as possible doing the things that take a long time to do. And so we're talking about, he was talking about submarines. They're evidently going to modify their 2 aircraft carriers is one of the things I read today. Some big things, some more surface combatants. They're coming out with a 5th/6th generation fighter, which I think I've misquoted a couple of times. I believe they're working with Japan and Italy on, if I've got the right team up there. So they've got a lot of these big projects that, and you heard his timeline. He's talking about 2035. This is basically what President Obama did in 2014 when Russia first invaded Ukraine. And President Obama had a top to bottom, back to front, up to left, right, everything. If it was something the military had, he wanted somebody to take a look at it to see if it was okay, if it needed improvement, if it needed modernization, or if it just needed maintenance. He didn't fully succeed. America is notably short on ship repair and shipbuilding. That would be one thing if Trump can fix. I will applaud. But you can see these time frames where Obama in 2014 started saying something. We started to see a lot of these things starting to come online in 2022. So one of the things that President Obama was looking at was he had halted F-22 production. They looked at restarting F-22 production. That looked very expensive for a jet that was basically a 1992 design. And so they went with the NGAD, the Next Generation Air Dominance Fighter, which started flying prototypes no later than 2020. But that you're looking at 6 years there, right? So these are the kinds of timelines that we're looking at, and we can talk about fighter production lines. These are things that don't just happen. In the bottom right-hand corner, as Starmer was speaking, they mentioned something about 30,000 jobs. That's probably an underestimate. One of the things that defense spending that people don't necessarily understand is that a lot of that money goes to civilian jobs. So if you're building high-tech, heavy industry kinds of things like submarines and aircraft carriers and sophisticated fighter jets and armored vehicles and things like that, you need some very basic civilian skills like, do you have a welder that knows what they're doing, that can do a high-tech weld on sophisticated high-tech alloys and not mess it up, have their work stand up to 9G maneuvers in an aircraft or to a submarine diving to whatever their depth is. This is sophisticated work for a highly skilled individual, which means that person is going to get paid a pretty decent salary. And that's just on somebody doing manual labor. You're talking about a welder. You've got all the other similar types of jobs in shipyards and on airplane factory lines, on armor tank production lines. You've got engineers that do the drafts and the designs and work out, well, this is a problem, let's untangle this Gordian knot. You've got the research and development scientists. You've got all of the people that support them, because these people all have families. So all of these high-tech jobs that get paid well, they need homes, so they've got to pay for those. And so you see how all of this money that you spend on defense spending, this is a really serious economic stimulus plan. So aside from boosting your defense capabilities, you're also boosting your economy in very serious ways. High-tech, high-skill, high-paid jobs, and all of that just filters out into the rest of the economy. So it's a very serious thing. I would say that the United Kingdom is joining France in terms of modern, already established military industrial nations. They have a history. They've got some depth to their science and engineering and their industrial base. But you also have nations like Poland. We might have mentioned that Poland's going to hit 5, maybe 6% of their GDP on defense spending. They recently announced that all adult men, possibly all adults, will receive basic military training, which is insane. But they're scared of Russia. The Baltic nations have been doing this for a couple of years already. They've had ad hoc adults in the woods learning military skills. How do you set up an ambush? How do you build a booby trap? How do you string razor wire? How do you dig a trench? These kinds of things. Or in the cases of the Baltic nations, because they're geographically not very big, one thing Ukraine has been doing is a rope-a-dope kind of a thing where they can trade territory to weaken Russia's military. And that's why the Russia's 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 soldiers that Russia loses every day in Ukraine, that's a deliberate strategy by Ukraine. So Russia can gain, if they gain 100 yards locally, if they basically a field, but they lose 120 soldiers doing it, but all they did was they gained a field. They reached the next tree line. That's all they did. but they paid a heavy price for it. The Baltic nations, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, can't do that. They don't have land to trade. So their tactical situation is different. What they are training their adult population to do is say, look, even an incompetent Russian military could overrun us in a matter of days. Like if they do a really poor job, it would be weeks, but we're going to get overrun. So they're training their adults to form partisan guerrilla resistance movements. And that's the way that people are thinking. The nations that border Russia, that's the way that they're thinking. Because Russia has demonstrated that that's what they're willing to do.
Which is why if Russia prevails in Ukraine, it pretty much guarantees we're going into World War III in a kinetic way, in my estimation, because
if the West abandons Ukraine in a way that allows Russia to overrun Ukraine, I don't see how Russia would not view that as a green light to go into the Baltic nations, certainly. But also they've got that enclave in Kaliningrad that you have to, I believe the southernmost Baltic nation of Latvia. You either have to cross one of the Baltic nations or Poland to get to it, or you have to go into the Baltic Sea. And so there's a corridor there that Poland is heavily defending. That's where all of their Abrams tanks are, at least if what I read is still true. They've got Poland has several hundred Abrams tanks, lots of other vehicles, but they would go in there and take that gap so that they could solidify their hold on Kaliningrad. I don't see if the West allows Russia to overrun Ukraine, that's a green light for Russia to go somewhere else. Because if we're going to let them have Ukraine, why on earth wouldn't we let them have Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania? I mean,
and just to kind of wrap things up here with this tonight, Mike, what do you think all of this telegraphs to us about what is coming? Are we going to see more of these kinds of attacks inside Russian territory?
Oh yeah. The Ukrainian innovation hasn't stopped. So the attack that they pulled off on those Russian strategic bomber bases was started 18 months ago. So if they were looking at the tech they had on hand and said, yes, this is feasible, we can do this, we'll set this in motion, we'll make detailed plans, we'll start this. And that was 18 months ago. They've had 18 months to come up with new things since then. So what do they currently have on the board? What other cards does Zelensky have in his hand that Trump never knew about? So this is not going to stop. Ukraine means business. And they have somebody that is assaulting their house and they're going after them, and they're not going to stop. So one of the things I remembered, this was a year ago, when the newly Republican Congress was trying to hold up Ukrainian aid, and I was talking to some frontline soldiers, and they're like, look, we'll fight. If all we have are shovels, we'll use shovels to fight. If we run out of bullets. So Ukraine's going to figure something out. They're going to keep fighting. If Russia occupies all of Ukraine, there's going to be millions of Ukrainians trapped inside Ukraine, but they're going to be resisting. What are they going to do? They're going to start disrupting rail. There's all sorts of things that Ukraine would still be fighting, even if Russia occupied Ukraine.
Is there any,
there's reported partisan activity in Mariupol, in Sevastopol. There's all sorts of notable behind Russian lines, but in occupied Ukraine resistance movements.
Anything else that you want to draw our attention to tonight, or have we covered the bases?
I think we pretty much covered everything. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Mike, thank you so much for,
we should watch out. The one thing that we should watch out for confirmation, battlefield assessment kind of a thing. So fog of war and all that kind of stuff. We won't necessarily know the damage, even from the bomber attacks, which have been a day or two already. We might not see some of that for a week. Well, last I read, there were 16 confirmed aircraft damaged or destroyed in the publicly available footage. So we'll see what actually happens. The same is true for the Kerch Strait Bridge. We'll see what goes on.
Amazing developments on the battlefield. And I would talk more about the peace talks.
Such as they were.
Aside from the prisoner exchange, I don't think much.
Well, Trump's going to taco again. So these are the same Russian demands that they had last time. It has to be a new Ukrainian government. There's got to be Ukraine's military's got to be weak. You've got to give us all of these Ukrainian regions, even though we haven't finished conquering them yet. You just have to withdraw your forces, and we're going to go the rest of the way without winning on the battlefield. All of these just silly demands so there's nothing new in the list that Russia gave. Same old trash. So we'll see if Trump chickens out again.
All right. Well, you take care of that cold or whatever it is you have, COVID or whatever, and we'll look forward to getting you back. And I suspect we'll have you back pretty soon because I think Ukraine's pretty active.
Yep.
Right now.
They've got more cards to play.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it. I'll be right back, everybody. We'll cover the rest of today's top news stories after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, I'm back, and I'm just going to show you this. Have you seen this new portrait of President Trump? Is it just me? Am I the only one who thinks this is funny? I haven't really looked much for reaction from other people on this, but I find this actually very humorous. This is his picture. This is Roger Stone, his Twitter profile, X, whatever. This is like his mugshot. The portrait is basically his mugshot. It's just looking tough. What's Stone say about this? He says, the new presidential portrait of one of the most consequential presidents in world history. The greatest single title that history can bestow is that of peacemaker. The American people elected Donald Trump as the peace candidate, and he is living up to that title. I don't know about that. He seems to be alienating his allies and the U.S. allies, despite the deep state's efforts to ignite World War III. I think we're pretty close tonight to that. I don't know about the whole peace candidate or peace president thing. Maybe convicted of Al Capone 2.0. He seems to like to compare himself to Al Capone. I think that's hilarious. He's basically, his portrait is his mugshot. Here we go. I don't know. It's funny to me. I don't know. I'm not going to talk anymore about that. That was also posted on the Twitter account for John Katzimatidis, the owner of WABC Radio. Oh, it's going to be over here. I have to find the tab for you, if I can. I hope I still have it. I should have it here somewhere. This is the guy. He's been sort of taking the lead, if you will, on the U.S. side for this whole ostrich story. I want to run this for you because he's been talking more about it. Where did it go? Let me take a little break while I find his post. Sorry about that. It's just they have so much news up on the board here. It's going to take me a minute to get it queued back up.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Okay. Before we get to John Katzimatidis about the ostriches, I want to show you what happened out at the Ostrich Research Facility in Edgewood, BC today. The daughter of the co-owner of the Ostrich Research Farm, Katie Pasitny, goes on social media this morning and starts talking about a bunch of black SUVs or vans, maybe 20 or 30 of them, apparently heading toward Edgewood. And this set off alarm bells. And of course, as you probably are aware, if you've been following this protest out at this research facility, the protesters there have been developing a plan, which is sort of secret. And they have people positioned even in areas where they can monitor what police and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency authorities are doing. So they'll have ample warning before they get there. They say they want to slow the authorities down. I don't know. I guess that's a protest. I don't know where you draw the line between protesting and obstruction of justice, or obstructing police, I guess would be the more accurate term if police are involved in this in any way. I guess it depends on if they're trying to arrest someone, but I don't know what the law would be. specifically related to this, as the CFIA tries to go in and cull the flock of now, I guess, 398 remaining ostriches because of this bird flu outbreak that has been identified by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. The farm owners, of course, say the birds are completely healthy. How they're coming to that conclusion, well, they can just tell by looking at them, is what they say. Yet at the same time, as we've also unpacked for you, the children out there have been tested and have been confirmed for having been in contact with the bird flu virus H5N1. And the CFIA has indicated that the strain of bird flu is very unique. Found, I guess, only in Ohio, according to the CFIA, disputed by the farm owners, again, in Edgewood. But apparently this led to the severe illness and possibly a death of one human being, because it did transmit, they say, to a human being in Ohio, and that resulted in a death. So that's what I've been told. That's what seems to be the information coming from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. It's a dispute. It's an information war out there. It is political on a scale like I haven't seen in my lifetime. A protest like this one. International in scope, with the intervention of RFK Jr., Dr. Oz, John Catsimatidis, Jay Bhattacharya, doctor, all weighing in on this, putting pressure on the Canadian government not to cull. And these protesters, I think it generally speaking, you're looking at about 50 or 60 people. I think on the weekend, it probably, the numbers increased maybe to 100 people out at this research farm. In any event, this morning, it was all, red alert, everybody to battle stations, per se, sort of whatever they're doing. Still not clear. They're not showing you everything that they're doing out there, but everybody was called to battle stations because these vehicles were supposed to be coming. And this is what it sounded like on and looked like on social media.
Hi, everyone.
With Katie Pasitny.
We're just waiting. I'll let you guys know what we know. There was just 20 or 30 vehicles, some rentals, vans, all that just heading our way. So I am very grateful everybody's paying attention, everybody's watching, and this is what we have to do. We're just being diligent. We have our affidavits are in an appeal. We have so much going on that is so good, and it's all to protect these guys, because it's not right. But we do know that they are, they're resisting us all the way about just trying to get these guys tested, just to prove how healthy they are. So anyways, I'm gonna keep you posted, and we don't want, this is what we're dealing with this morning, and as soon as we know, you're gonna know from a lot of people if somebody's coming in here. Love you, and everybody just keep saying prayers for the farm, please. Okay, bye-bye.
So that was this morning. And so, of course, some people messaged me and said, red alert, it's going down. I was skeptical because I don't think that's the way it will happen. But anyway, I prepared the broadcast. I was ready to go if we needed to go live to keep you guys up to date. But it didn't really happen today. And it looks like that was sort of a false alarm. Now, that being said, I guess they had sort of a dry run, as some of the other influencers out there indicated, for their response to the authorities coming out to the farm. And the reason I say it's a research facility is because that's exactly what it is. And they have been injecting those birds since 2020 with COVID antigens to do COVID research, antibody research, they say, in conjunction with first a lab in Quebec and then also this professor Sakamoto in Japan. Now, I also contacted Immune Biosolutions in Sherbrooke, Quebec, sent them a message requiring confirmation that that company, as part of a $13 million grant from the Canadian government, was indeed working with this farm in Edgewood, and we still do not have any response from the company. No comment from Immune Biosolutions in Sherbrooke, Quebec so far. So I will be following up, and we'll see what we have to do to dig into that a little bit deeper. When we don't get comment, sometimes it makes me dig even harder and deeper. So I'll be looking at that more closely in the days ahead. Now, backtracking to John Catsimatidis, billionaire, owner of shopping centers throughout New York. He is worth $4.3 billion. He owns an oil refinery in, I believe, can't remember the exact city, but the oil for that oil refinery comes directly, a lot of it, from Alberta, and they have an office in Calgary, Alberta. In addition to that, he also is the owner of WABC Radio, AM talk radio in New York City, the former flagship station for ABC, the American Broadcasting Corporation. Huge station, massive reach, connected, I guess, or became connected to this story, the ostrich research farm. I'm not exactly sure how, but it seems there's some connection between him and the protest and the Trump administration. Catsimatidis, a big donor to the Trump campaign. Also, as part of this, he's brought on to his radio program. He also has a radio program that he has on his own radio station out there. He's had RFK Jr. on, HHS Secretary. He's also had Dr. Oz on, who has said, send the ostriches to my farm. That's where all that came from, was from his radio show. He has been injecting himself into the story through his radio program. And I have this from this episode of, this is not his program, but on the same radio station. He was on as a guest as part of, what is this? Animal Welfare Hour. So this fits perfectly with the theme of this particular show on his own radio station. But I run this for you tonight because he's getting so much, if not wrong, he is wrong through omission. Because you listen to this and you tell me, is this really accurate, the way he's portraying this story? If you've been paying attention to what we've been sharing with you in terms of our investigation into the craziness, the insanity going on out at that research facility, where they're portraying these ostriches as characters, as personified people. They're giving them names, treating them like pets, and yet they're actually laboratory birds in an open-air biolab where they're conducting research, formerly a farm where they were selling the meat. I mean, you have to watch all of the craziness that we've uncovered here. And I don't know about those tears from Katie Pasitny. I guess it's obviously emotional, but these are not pets. 398 of them. Anyway, listen to this, and I'm going to stop it here and there as we go along and explain why I think this is just political more than neutral.
More trusted, more secure payments network, Visa provides scale expert.
Okay. Here we go. Come on.
With your evolving needs, with flexible coverage options from TD Insurance, you only pay for what you need. TD.
Come on.
Ready for you.
Over the course of human history, there's been Noah's Ark, savior of mankind. Saint Francis of Assisi, foregoing his wealth to be savior of all animals. And Nancy Sliwa, guardian angel and savior of all animals, protecting both man and beast.
This is a very special episode of the Animal Welfare Podcast that you can get on WABCRadio.com. Make sure you share it with all animal lovers all over the globe and all the other podcasts. But we have our very special guest, our owner and operator of WABC and all of its affiliates, John Katzimatidis, who has taken the lead on this issue that I have spoken about. That is the ostrich farm in British Columbia. It now has the Royal Canadian Mounted Police outside ready to issue an order to cull the herd. John, you've led
that. This was actually from a few days ago. I don't think the RCMP is at the gates tonight, but anyway, they've been out there checking on things, speaking with the protesters. I will call them now animal rights activists.
From the American side on this issue, can you explain why it is that they want to kill the remaining ostriches on that farm?
Nobody knows why they want to kill them. These ostriches...
Okay, first words out of his mouth, misinformation. Nobody knows why they want to kill them. Why would he say that? How can he possibly not understand or know that there has been a bird flu outbreak on the premises of this ostrich research facility, which has been engaged in COVID research and possibly other kinds of virus research as well in an open air biolab, which doesn't seem to, it doesn't meet the standards for this kind of work. So there's a lot more to dig into here. He says nobody knows why. Yes, we do know why. 69 birds died from bird flu. Testing confirmed the presence of bird flu. Human beings, the children out there have been tested, have confirmed to have antibodies indicating that they've been in contact with this very unique strain of bird flu, which apparently may have left one person dead in Ohio.
Are ancient animals. They're loving animals. They're in the farm.
Loving animal. I don't know. Are ostriches capable of love? Because even the researcher, Dr. Tsukamoto over in Japan, said they're bird brains with the attention span of a goldfish and said that they can be quite vicious. We also spoke, I don't know if these birds, they're cool looking and cute, but they're also very powerful, aggressive. The operator of Area 51 Animal Sanctuary, where they take in former lab animals and then give them a life afterward, said that ostriches are mean. So I don't know how much they love you. They did seem to want to peck Karen, the owner of the place, almost to death. If they didn't eat her, they were eating her sweater in that one video. I don't mean to, I'm just saying, come on. They're livestock, but they're trying to make them out. Katzimatidis is, he's trying to personify these birds and make you care about them. That's the point. He's choosing his words and his narrative in a way to spin up emotion and an emotional response here from you.
And like 4 years ago, a few of them got sick and they died.
Said 4 years ago, a few of them got sick and died. No. Yeah, 4 years ago, some of them got sick and 10 birds at least at that time died. And now fast forward to last December and 69 birds died over the course of a month. And then the farm owners, according to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, failed to report the bird flu outbreak, which they're obligated to do. The farm owners dispute that. They say they reported it to a veterinarian. And yet they received a $10,000 fine for failing to report. We've confirmed that in the news release from the CFIA. Yes, they can fight that in court, as they have the cull order, which has delayed the cull by 6 months. So they have been given due process and an opportunity to challenge this in court, and they lost.
But the rest of them developed an antibody. And for the last 4 years, there's no sign of sickness. And somebody in Canada has a task that says we have to kill them. I mean, where does this killing come from? I love animals. Animals have the right to live.
No, they don't. They don't have the right to live. They don't have rights at all. Contrary to what some animal rights activists would say, as I've indicated, we've gone over this. They don't have rights. They do not have a right to live. If they did, we would not be allowed to eat them. We wouldn't be farming them. That's what a farm is for. If it's a farm for food production, it's to raise the birds, kill the birds, chop them up, and sell the body parts so that we can eat them. That is not a creature with rights. Human beings, citizens, have rights, but our rights are limited. And we make sure through the limitation of people's rights that animal welfare is protected, because we as a society don't want people to be cruel to animals. So if someone is cruel to an animal, then it's the limitation on your rights. It means that that protects the animal. You're not allowed to go around abusing animals. It means that even at a farm, if a bird is killed or culled for food production or any other reason, it must be put down humanely. But they don't have a right to life. That's why hunters can go out and shoot ducks and take them home to eat them. So make no mistake, that's a mistake. That's also, I would say, misdirection, if not straight up misinformation. I don't know if Mr. Castamatidis, worth $4.3 billion and the owner of, some pretty successful businesses, I would think that he must be aware of these concepts in law and philosophy.
And you want to kill him, prove. Just don't say, I'm going to issue an order and kill him. Why don't you test them?
They did test them. They tested 2 carcasses, multiple samples taken from the 2 dead birds that they told the farm owners to call them as soon as 2 more birds died, and then they died. This is back in January. And they confirmed the testing, sent samples off to a lab in Winnipeg to double check, came back, confirmed. Not only did they confirm the presence of bird flu, they've identified the specific strain, which is of heightened concern because apparently it's linked to a death very far away, way over in, I guess, Ohio. So they did test. Now, the farm owners want every bird tested, but that's not the procedure. When you have 69 birds that die and you test 2 of the dead ones so that you don't have to then put people in danger of coming in contact with birds that are probably infected. And so that you're also not putting people in danger of possibly being injured by these birds who can be very aggressive, especially at this time of year, because this is breeding season and the males are extremely aggressive at this time of year. And you've seen even in the social media posts that these ostriches are, well, there's ostrich porn on Facebook if you'd like to go watch it. And they're laughing about it while the birds are procreating right in front of us in real time.
Test them by an independent source and see if they're sick and see if they have antibodies.
Well, they do have antibodies, natural antibodies, and then these other antibodies that are produced not naturally through the injection of antigens. Specifically, we know they've been researching COVID to produce COVID antibodies in the eggs of these birds and the blood. And now we're also told they have antigens, or I guess antibodies rather, for this bird flu, blah, blah, blah. The CFIA in court documents say that the farm has actually failed to prove that they have been conducting proper research out there. And so they've rejected these arguments from the farm that they have unique genetics.
Some of the rumors were that some of the pharmaceutical companies didn't want the antibodies because they're making too much money on the vaccines.
And there's no indication of that. He's just making that statement. There's nothing he's got no evidence of that. He has no statement from a pharmaceutical company. He has no evidence to back that up. That's just a theory. But he's just stating it as though it's a fact. So I'm sorry, Mr. Castamatidis, you're all the way down the line so far. All the information you're sharing is not accurate.
So, I love Robert Kennedy and what he's trying to do to save our people from using all the chemicals in our foods and et cetera, et cetera. I don't need any more of those M&Ms in the kitchen anymore. These animals deserve their day in court.
The animals don't get a day in court. The farm owners get a day in court. The research facility owners get a day in court. People get a day in court. People have rights. People are entitled as property owners to due process. In this case, the government wants to cull the birds and compensate the farm owners with up to $3,000 per bird, $1.2 million approximately for the herd, or the flock is, I think, the more accurate phrase in this case. But the birds don't have rights. Birds don't get a day in court. Again, that's an attempt to humanize, peopleize animals in order to tell a more effective story that tugs at your heartstrings.
Before you kill them, why don't you test them and make sure they're okay? Or let's have another organization test them and see what antibodies they have.
It's interesting.
That cure people.
Well, we've already had this discussion, and if they are successful here in forcing the CFIA to test every one of these birds, it could potentially set a precedent that would then allow other farms to challenge the CFIA and force them to test every single chicken in every single poultry operation every time there's a bird flu outbreak. And this could extend to other kinds of emergency situations, which could delay the effective response from the authorities, from our government, from our health agencies, putting people, industries at risk, because the longer you wait, the more likely it is that diseases can spread. You generally need a pretty rapid response to these sorts of things. And it's not practical to test every single bird. It's like some of the other farms other farms that have been affected by these culls have 60,000, 70,000, 100,000 chickens. So they test, if you have them dying off and then you test a few and you confirm the presence of the virus, you know that the virus is present. And if they're dying, well, now you know that the virus is killing off the birds. It's like if you have, just yesterday, there was, I believe, a recall in the United States from the FDA for tomatoes because of, I believe it was a listeria or a salmonella outbreak. I'd have to check the details. But they know that because of the regulations and the policies in place, that the tomatoes coming from a particular source, particular farms and processing facilities, there are certain lots of these tomatoes, and if some of them have been contaminated, then they know that those ones have to come off the shelves. But you don't go into the supermarkets or into the warehouses and start testing every single tomato to see if it has been exposed or has come into contact with the contaminant, the bacteria that can make people sick and even kill people. You take the whole batch off the shelves. You destroy all of them to make sure that nobody gets anything that is contaminated. You just get rid of all the tomatoes. Because after you test so many, you realize, hey, we've got a problem here. So anything within this date range, and we've identified where it came from, these ones all have to go. You don't test every single tomato. You don't test every single bird. You don't need to. And you shouldn't, because it's not practical. And if we get into that, we could bankrupt and destroy our entire economy. And if we don't cull the birds, then the science says that you run the risk of having the disease spread to more and more farms, resulting in more and more culls, more and more deaths. And if not culls, then a lot of pain and suffering of birds. If you don't kill them in a humane way through these culls, the ones that become sick, they die very painful, horrific death with swollen brains, internal bleeding where they bleed out over the course of anywhere from 1 to 7 days. And the ones that live the longest suffer the most. That's why they want to cull them, not just to prevent the spread of the disease, but also to minimize the suffering of the animals. So people who think that it's cruel to cull them are actually prolonging the suffering. It's what we're getting here is an upside down narrative, and the impact from this information war, it could have very negative repercussions that could affect not only our health, but also our economy, and could also result in massive amounts of animal suffering, and I would even argue animal cruelty.
As you are leading the effort on the American side, you actually got the Secretary of the National Institute of Health on, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to weigh in on this, and he was very supportive of keeping the ostriches alive. They have herd immunity.
That's a claim. That is not to say that they can't get sick again. And the larger concern here is, as we've shown, studies have shown that ostriches, because they are more likely to survive the bird flu, as you've seen at that research facility, they then become efficient carriers, or can become efficient carriers of the disease. And anyone that comes in contact with them, any human, can become an efficient carrier of the disease beyond that facility without even knowing it, because the virus can get on your clothing, on your skin, it can get in your blood. You can become basically a typhoid avian flu Mary as a human being and carry this disease far beyond wherever it came from. It can get on the tires of your car. And it can survive, the virus can survive and linger for weeks, months, and it can go very far afield. This is how it spreads. It's about minimizing the risk of spread and minimizing the risk to people. That's why they want to cull them. Now, you can take exception to that or disagree with it, but contrary to the information or misinformation or misguided information, incomplete information that is being shared here by Mr. Castamatidis on his extremely powerful American radio station. Contrary to that, it's what he's sharing here is not accurate.
As of January 19th, no other ostriches have gotten ill or died. That's 4 months.
But it doesn't mean that they are not infected. It does not mean that they might not be carriers of it and the virus has been present out there. And now, because the farm owners have been actually given due process and the opportunity to challenge this in court, it has dragged on since January. And it's not like they haven't been given an opportunity to challenge this. On the contrary, our system does accommodate that. And that is why we are at where we are at right now. But it doesn't mean that the virus is still not a threat out there. And this is something people need to understand. And more than that, the research that has been going on out there is now open to question, especially with the other information that has come to light as a result of all this. Was the research being done improperly or properly? Where was the money coming from? What were they being injected with? Was this facility being properly operated? There are a lot of questions about all of these things, and a lot of really, I would say, unanswered, open-ended questions related to the government grants and a lot of other things. It's become much more complicated than an average run-of-the-mill cull, because this was no longer a food production facility after 2020. It became a bio-research lab. And a lot of questions now surrounding how that whole thing has been operated out there. A lot of concerns. And why? Why are we seeing all this interest in this particular farm when we've had hundreds of other farms affected by avian bird flu? There's some culls taking place across Canada right now. Some of them right in British Columbia. Why are the animal rights activists, these freedom fighters, suddenly turned animal rights activists? And why is John Castamatidis and his pro-Trump, pro-ostrich friends so interested in this particular farm?
So why do you...
It's more like 4 years, too.
Right, but why now all of a sudden? It's almost like they've gotten stubborn. And as you pointed out, there are...
You know the definition of something of bureaucrats?
Yeah.
They're stubborn.
Yes.
And some of them are mean.
Mean, stubborn bureaucrats.
Stubborn people is the worst you can get.
And the owners and operators are sleeping right by the pens. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, we learned about them when we watched Rocky.
They want to arrest the owners.
Yes. And do the culling and allow the British Columbia...
I had to look at that word in the dictionary. I didn't know what culling was.
It means kill them all.
This is a guy who doesn't know what the word culling means, and yet he's weighing in on this and becoming involved politically, bringing his wealth and his power through this radio station to bear here on an issue that he clearly seems to not understand. How qualified is he even to be commenting on this if he doesn't even know what the word cull means? And as I pointed out, and all of this information I'm sharing with you, my points have all been backed up with attribution, verification, documentation, documents, interviews with stakeholders, including farm owner Karen Esperson, who's confirmed the injections of the birds with the COVID antigen. All of these other facts that I've shared with you, not coming from me, coming from the farm owners themselves. Why is this guy, Mr. Castamatidis, with all due respect, why is he injecting himself into this when he doesn't really have a grasp of what this is about at all?
Kill them all, and because of avian flu. But they don't have avian flu. So this would be absolutely ridiculous, and the whole world is now watching what's going on at that
We got
farm.
the whole world watching. We've broadcasted worldwide.
And that's the slogan that they're using out there. This, to me, because he's using these slogans over and over again, this shows that he's advocating for, promoting this protest. This is not balanced, unbiased news coverage at all. This is activism on a program called the Animal Welfare Hour on WABC radio, coming from a very rich, wealthy, powerful man who's tied very closely to the Trump administration, at least it looks like it, and also seems to have some connections to the freedom fighters now turned animal rights activists, strangely, out in Edgewood, BC, at this Universal Ostrich Research Facility.
And these animals need a fair trial before you kill them.
And
they're ancient animals. They're beautiful animals.
This is one of the few issues that have brought together the left, of which most people who live in British Columbia are on the left and the right.
I don't have left and right, Curtis. You know me.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that has I believe in the word common sense. And the other things that are going on, they're putting on those windmills in the Atlantic Ocean again, and they're going to start killing all whales again.
So explain this, John, because you're in the energy business. And Bruce Blakeman, the Nassau County.
Yeah, he is in the energy business, and he has that Calgary office right out there in Alberta, right in the heart of the separatist movement and the 51st state movement. Interesting.
Executive worked hard to lobby the Trump administration to stop the continued building of the windmills.
I think Bruce Blakeman should continue to lobby that, and I think that Bruce Blakeman
stop the windmills, coming from a guy who owns an oil refinery.
Should do what other people have done, like Vito Fusella in Staten Island. Let's start a lawsuit. I'll help whatever we got to do with it, because those windmills, you know what they accomplish? Very little for the amount of money you spend. And you know what they do, Curtis? I want all the listeners to know what they do. If it costs you a lot more money to make electricity through the windmills, they just pass it on to the consumer. So they spend billions of dollars, kill birds.
They've changed the skyline for sure, the horizon, where it used to be very flat. Now you have wind turbines all through my community here. I can't say I'm a huge fan of wind turbines at all, But I also see political interests here from a guy who owns an oil refinery. And so I see the motivation behind the political activism there.
Trump has been very firm on eliminating windmills, and yet the White House changed their position after Kathy Hochul, the governor, had
Trump
conversations.
made a business decision.
Mm-hmm.
Trump made a business decision. I know Trump for 45, 50 years. And the business decision was...
So he's telling you right there, he's known Trump for like 45 to 50 years. So he's no stranger to the Trump administration, and he is a donor.
That Kathy Hochul was going to permit pipes to go, gas pipes to go from, I guess, Canada to New York, through New York State. And in exchange, Trump was going to allow them to do that, the windmills.
Pipeline deals. How far are we into this? 6 minutes and 35 seconds. And we've covered everything from the ostriches to wind turbines, activism to get those shut down, and pivoting over to pipelines that come from Canada into the U.S. From where? Alberta land.
But I think that Kathy Hochul, Governor Hochul, should allow those pipelines anyway because they don't hurt anybody. It's good for people. But the windmills are going to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in favor of pipelines, but I also recognize that there are land rights, First Nations considerations. These are complicated issues. And just like the ostriches, it's not black and white, simple, straight up and down. But certain people have certain interests, certain motivations. Some people are journalists. Some people are business people. And some people are activists. Some people mix those things together.
And it's interesting because the pipelines would come through Stefanik's congressional district, creating obviously a lot of work. But Bruce Blakeman, who led the charge on this, did the lobbying, did everything necessary to prove that there was no need for the windmills, so that at 30% built, now has to take one step backward. But you're right. The only way to prevent this...
Bruce Blakeman should go forward and sue and do whatever he has to do to stop it. Because it's not good for Long Island. And all they're going to do, Curtis, all they're going to do is when the increased costs come in, pass it on to the consumer.
And speaking of that energy, it doesn't go to Nassau or Suffolk County. It goes...
It doesn't matter where it's going. As the wind blows, I mean, you know...
As the wind blows.
Yeah, and the other thing that's just as bad, and we did a study on it, and we had people on the other radio the other day, those solar cells.
Yes.
Solar cells, if you talk to Bert Flickinger on it, were installed in Chinese solar cells.
Yes.
They were installed in 200 Walmarts. 6 Walmarts burned down to the ground. The other ones did damage. But the secret we found out that when Walmart thought it was a good business deal because they're going to connect them to the grid and sell excess electricity to the grid.
Yes.
But guess what we found out? And we got to check that out.
Yes.
Guess what we found out? They had certain things in those solar cells that they could the Chinese could shut down our grid.
Huh.
You know, the American people have to realize we're under a state of war.
Is that true? Is that even true? I'm going to look that up. So the Chinese... Did China really have chips in their solar panels that they can use to shut down the American power grid? I'm going to check that. I'm going to be right back on the other side. That's alarming.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. So I can't find evidence of that on the fly here. I know that there are concerns about have been concerns, and I think legitimate concerns about China having access to our communication systems, cell phones, things of that nature, and the cell phone infrastructure, which is why Huawei was prevented from providing the technology for cell phone infrastructure in Canada and the US. And so I guess there's some evidence that this kind of technology could be used as part of a communications network to shut down solar panels or whatever. But I don't know. If you guys have any information on that to confirm one way or the other, send it to me, because my interest is piqued in possible Chinese manipulation or embedding chips in solar panels to shut down our electrical grid. Maybe. Could be. It could be. You never know. Or a lot of people could be like incredibly paranoid. But no, due diligence is advised when it comes to infrastructure. And we do need to harden our infrastructure for sure against attacks and things of that nature, and cyber attacks, computer hackers who we know have been, had tried to take down power grids. There's no question about it. So it's maybe a legitimate concern, but I don't know if it's actually happened. I do see a lot of information circulating. I don't know what it's information warfare. I would say exaggerations, even to some degree, some propaganda out there trying to ramp up fear as justification for opposition to China. Ramps up, especially with the Trump administration. But that's another subject for another day, I think, that we can elaborate on more later. Enough of Mr. Castamatidis. I've drawn your attention to that broadcast in particular, because it just illustrates how this guy, who has been his activities have been very disruptive out at the protest. Disruptive in the sense that he's been very supportive of the protest at this research facility, this research farm. And as a result of his work, he has been encouraging more and more and more people to go out to the farm. And the other influencers, streamers, podcasters, influencers who are out there have also been encouraging people to come out to the farm. Jim Kerr today, again, encouraging more people to come to the farm, even as we know CFIA, RCMP, likely to head out there at any time. They thought they were coming this morning. Didn't quite happen. But come on out. Come out to the farm, they keep saying. They want more and more people to come out there. For what? Exactly. To protest, I guess. I guess you're right to a point. But I think this is, this is just from just a short time ago.
Ostrich Farm, and things have settled down a little bit from this morning.
So here's this Shadow Davis out of the farm. Podcaster, live streamer, influencer, as I say. I won't call him a journalist.
So here we are, Universal Ostrich Farm, and things have settled down a little bit from this morning, right?
Yeah, they have. We have a call to action for anybody with a Starlink. Could anybody that within the next few hours could have a Starlink here at the farm, 301 Langell Road? That would be amazing. Even if we could just borrow it, that would be great. Starlink at the farm for the evening. That would be great.
Okay, so if you're in the Vernon area, I suppose that would be the closest place, right? We need the equipment here. If anybody can deliver it before the evening, we need to be able to get the equipment here, and then we'll just point it at the sky, and hopefully it works. We also need an account. If you have an account, we'll pay for that too. We just need that kind of accessibility to Starlink by tonight, because we've got a feeling. Yeah, I think it's just good to be prepared, and we want, if anything happens, to be able to show the world what is happening and do that without no interruption.
They need access to Starlink because they don't want to be on the cell towers. They're able to feed live video out. Using their cell phones. That's a live feed. You were just watching. That's a recording of a live feed. So they have the ability to go live through cell phone towers. And they don't want that. They want an uplink. Why? They're not really telling you why, but they want it.
So a Starlink at the farm would be.
You know what they needed? You know, it's been just a little sidebar. You know, it has allowed Ukraine to be so successful against Russia in the war. Starlink.
Be absolutely fantastic for anybody who is watching and could donate that to us for a while. We would be so grateful. As the world watches, this is what we need, so we can continue to watch as the world watches.
Okay, guys, the next request I have naturally would be if you could share this out. Hopefully we can make this happen fast, but we can't do it without your help. So we know you're here watching for a reason. You can help right now with this request. So thanks very much. Share this out there. And if you know anybody who has got, or if you have got that, message me through Messenger on Facebook, and we'll get back to you ASAP.
Somebody said to me the other day that I could learn a thing or two from Shadow Davis. I'm a journalist. And I was told you could learn a thing or two from Shadow Davis. He gets a lot more viewers than you get. And I was told he also gets a lot more donations. Yeah. Shadow Davis tonight is not a journalist. He's part of the protest. Shadow Davis is promoting the protest. He's not only providing advice and guidance, he's become an activist. Shadow Davis has injected himself into the protest. He's a protester now. I'm not a protester. And I'm a journalist. So I do try to provide fair and balanced coverage and deal with facts. And I will take positions on things from this chair and from the field when it serves the public. And I think back to 1990. I've been doing this a long time, and I've learned a lot of things from a lot of people. Some of the best, frankly. Some people who were much more successful than I in the field of journalism. And I think back to 1990. Trucker blockades, key border crossings in Canada, 1990, over deregulation of the trucking industry. Huge blockade. I was working in Windsor, Ontario at the Windsor-Detroit border, and the main blockade was right there, and it was all put together by Wayne Whitney. I remember Wayne very well. I learned a big lesson back in 1990 because I had a decision to make as that protest evolved over days. They had that border shut down. It was costing industry, especially the auto industry, huge amounts of money because nothing was flowing over that border. And it was over free trade at the time, for the free trade issue. It was over deregulation of the trucking industry. And Wayne Whitney trusted me. At one point, I was the only journalist that he would really talk to, candidly. Not sure exactly why, except that I've always been fair and balanced, and he trusted me and confided in me. And of course, this created a lot of ethical questions that I had to wrestle with as a young journalist in my 20s. Still pretty green and wet behind the ears. And there I was in the field facing some pretty tough ethical decisions, especially when Wayne Whitney asked me what he should do. Because he was facing arrest, detention, charges, huge fines, maybe the end of his career. And what he was going to decide to do, millions and millions of dollars in trade disruption were hanging in the balance. Jobs as well. Should he continue with the protest or should he end it? And he asked me what he should do multiple times. And this was, in private. And I had to say to him, Wayne, I can't tell you what to do. I can give you my assessment of what I'm seeing going on, but I cannot tell you what to do. I can tell you what I'm telling the people, which is that I think you've got them backed into a corner right now, and you've got leverage, but I can't tell you what to do, and I won't, because I'm not a protester. I'm a journalist. I'm here to cover the story, not be part of the story. Inevitably, you always have some effect, even just by being on scene. But I couldn't tell Wayne Whitney what to do in 1990. Now, I can advise people sometimes to maybe avoid things or take certain actions in order to keep them safe, if that's in the public interest. But man, it's a gray area sometimes. But when it came to that, boy, I could have had. See, if you give advice or you take that step, you suddenly build a different kind of relationship with the contact or the source. And you can sometimes get a lot more information. You're brought into the fold and you get exclusive stuff. But then you stop being a journalist. And there I was in my 20s. What do? If I do this, I might get more of that. If I do this, I won't get more of that, but I stay on the ethical side. And I just said, I cannot tell you what to do. But tonight, and as we've seen over the past, well, since this whole thing has started, we've seen a parade of influencers going out there promoting the protest. I have no axe to grind with the owners of that research facility. That's what it is. I didn't even want to touch this story. I'm not telling them what to do, and I'm not telling the protesters what to do. I've said, go if you want, but these are the dangers. This is what you're really getting involved with. This is the truth, as much as I can get, as close as I can get you to it. This is the information that's out there. This is what I've uncovered. This is more full information, closer to the whole truth, not just some of the truth, because omitting some facts and some information is about as bad as lying. And I'm not going to encourage anybody to go out there. I would say at this point, it's ethical to say I wouldn't advise anybody to go there, knowing what I know about what has been going on out there with regard to the research, because I think there are dangers. I think that there is a real risk of being exposed to bird flu, and I think there's a real risk of possibly being exposed to other pathogens that they're not talking about, because we don't know. There's too much we don't know for sure. And so you have to err on the side of caution. And that's why I would say what I'm saying. But I'm not doing it because I'm trying to be a political activist. I'm doing it because I'm trying to serve the public. And so these are the kinds of questions that I constantly weigh sitting in this chair, even today, years after my experience in 1990. So you see, to my friend who suggested I have a lot to learn from this guy, with all due respect, I learned that lesson decades ago. And I don't always get things right because sometimes I get tricked. Sometimes I become the victim of misinformation, especially today in this era of very sophisticated information warfare. But I'm always trying to do the right thing because I know what the consequences can be. And in this case, they can be very, very serious. And we have what is really something that should be treated as a public health issue, even a national security issue, because of the potential impact on our economy, on the poultry industry, the spread of disease, questions about government money flowing, research facilities that may or may not be operating properly, or I don't know if they're properly licensed. Too many questions, too many unanswered questions. And some people are just not talking about some of this stuff. And who's involved? RFK Jr.? Injecting himself into an argument with an open letter instead of like a closed phone call to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to discuss this matter in private and offer assistance in some way. No, if he sends a letter to the CFIA, then sends it to the protesters so they can post it online and politicize this thing, ramping things up even more, adding fuel to the fire, emboldening the protest so that you get even more people to come out to this research facility, which puts people in danger, potentially, because we don't know. Complicates things diplomatically. Why? And we see that there's all this money. There's these donations flowing in. We've shown you the donation pages where we now see that at least $250,000, maybe as much as $300,000 has been raised so far. We don't even really know because, well, they talk about transparency on the protest side. There really isn't much transparency, if any, coming from the protesters themselves. They ask for transparency from the CFIA. They say that the government is hiding things. They say that the government is lying. They say that the funding and that the government's just not being transparent. And yet we don't even really know how much money is flowing. We don't even know where the money is coming from. Individual donors, foreign sources. If this is political, is it even appropriate for foreign sources to be sending money to something that is highly political? Is it illegal? I guess maybe not. It's not an election. But man, I'll tell you, this something isn't right. Oh, am I being paranoid? Am I conflating things? Am I making stuff up? Am I sitting here saying things about U.S. intervention, U.S. influence, foreign interference in what is a politically charged debate regarding health, national security, economics, COVID, bird flu, vaccinations, the use of new technologies, the approach to deal with all of these things, 51st state, separatism. I'm seeing some of the same social media influencers who went out to the farm to promote the protest now talking about, oh yeah, British Columbia getting on the separatist bandwagon. Oh yeah, I've seen a couple of them talking about it. Isn't it strange that, you know, the two things seem to be coming from the same source? Why? This is Jess Prinsonson, a freedom fighter turned animal rights activist. This is a short clip. This was from day 6 of the protest. She went out there, has been very, I guess, active in the freedom movement. I was never aware of this person until this protest out at this research facility. And she talks in some of her posts about creating a parallel society, a parallel everything, and also talks about where the support is coming from. This is a review. This has really been stuck in my brain for days, and I share it with you tonight because I think this maybe ties things together just a little bit.
A day or two ago, the owners of the farm received an email from CFIA saying that they are coming within the week to carry out the cull of the healthy ostriches, all 399 of them. And that was pretty great timing, actually, because we have a super generous donor from the US who is trying to make things happen for us. This morning we unloaded a huge trailer full of supplies. I did inventory. Now we're sending out a wish list for things we still need. Apparently there are bouncy castles on the way. We are still waiting for Starlink to come. We've heard rumors about shower trucks. We shall see. There's a lot of moving parts to this, and it's kind of relying on people to pick stuff up and bring it down, and there's buses being organized.
A wealthy U.S., very generous U.S. donor. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, let's go to the phones. You can weigh in on this conversation. Here's the number to call. Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Exercise your right to free speech. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you. Okay, we have our first caller of the night on the phone, and I know who it is. All the way from out there in Alberta land. Hello, John.
Kanakistan, Rimby, Alberta, the great state, province of Canada there, Rickster. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you, John?
Good.
And
good.
Who else is on the line with us?
Well, if you're good old Montrealer, as always.
Okay. The gang's almost
Dragon!
Dragon from
Mr.
Montreal. Okay, so John, kick us off. What are you thinking?
Dragon, I missed you, bro. How are you?
Doing great. And you?
Well, Dragon, I got a question for you. Dragon, Dragon, you know who Pierre Poilievre is, sir?
No, well, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Dragon, leader of the Conservative Party.
John,
Dragon,
wait. You got to save this for the end of the show.
Oh, okay. Anyways, hang on, guys.
It's a joke.
I got a couple of quick thoughts. First off, Rick Stern Dragon, the Gene Hackman movie star that died, his wife, guys, she was a very healthy lady, 64. She got this virus with rats and mice around their $4 million property, and within 8 days, she was gone and dead. Does any of that, guys, with a virus tie into this ostrich farm, guys? I don't know.
Well,
I'm asking the question, Rickster.
Two very different scenarios, John. I mean, other than the fact that they're viruses, aside from that, it's a completely different set of circumstances. So I think
it is, Rick, but it brings back the question, Rick, of I don't think Gene Hackman and his wife had any idea their property was maybe with mice and rats in the garages with their cars. A virus can be very deadly, can it not, guys?
Yeah, it can be. And I guess there was somebody in the chat, my feed time saying that I was lying about the Ohio man who died because he had other health issues. Yeah, well, maybe if he hadn't gotten the bird flu, he'd still be freaking alive, even though he had some other health issues. So he still got the virus and freaking died. I didn't lie.
I just want to make, actually, can I make a comment on that? Because I did some research
Go
about
ahead,
that
Dragon.
subject.
Yeah, please enlighten us.
Well, about the avian flu that this Mister from Ohio did actually died from is a particular strain of the avian flu, which is the D3.1, if my memory is correct. And this one actually has been detected by the CDC and also the
CFIA.
all the CDC, yeah. And basically, it was present in Quebec, like mostly in Canada and British Columbia also. So it's a strong strain that is really proliferating.
Yeah. Who else is on the line? We just have another caller join us.
Hello?
Hello, who's that?
It's Ostrich.
Ostrich, Johnny from
Mr.
Toronto.
Ostrich.
Mr.
Johnny from Toronto. Hi, John. Love from Alberta, bro.
What? Hey, Kennedy said pregnant women and kids, no more hooch for them. Canada government says it's a lie. It's a lie.
Hey,
It's
John.
safe. It's safe.
John, you know what? You've been hassling me by text. You've been banned from the chat. And if you want to come on here, we'll have another conversation about this. But I really don't want. I really don't want.
Yeah.
To
Bet
engage
karma
with
on
you
you.
tonight. So thanks for calling, but we'll have the conversation another time. Not going to put up with it tonight. I've had my fill through the messages. So
and
ahead,
Rick and Dragon, Rimby, Alberta. Rick, thank you so much, and Dragon too. Thank you for the show last night, guys. That gentleman that called in, Rick, with Dragon and you, Rick, just a brilliant show, incredible common sense. I think some of us were feeling we're a little bit of nut bars out there, and the guy, Rick, completely backed you up with your research and his research. And Rick, that's got to be one of your greatest shows, like common sense. Thank you guys for the show last night. You really brought the whole ostrich thing home. And Rick, we're missing one person in Dragon out of the clown show with BC Ostriches. Do you know who that is?
Who's that?
Guys? Greta Thunberg. Greta.
No.
Where's Greta, guy? Dragon, where's our girlfriend Greta? She's part of the Palestinian thing, bro.
I wish
Dragon,
that I
did it
knew.
make you laugh?
You did, actually.
And you know, Rick, the other thing we talked about earlier today, this Edgewood community, Rick, I mean, I don't know. Allegedly, I don't think they're very happy with this ostrich farm people. And here's the other thing we talked about, Dragon, earlier today with Rickster. I love my Rickster. There seems to be such an amount of distrust now, Rick, with our democracy, our government, the king, the federal government, provincial, on keeping our Canadian food system safe. And I'm talking dairy, cheese, eggs, meat. Rickster, like, am I off base thinking that way, that I do trust my government and these agencies, that they are doing their job with humanity and worried about our food system, Rickster?
Well, I think that, you know, I think when police show up, they are there to try to keep you safe. Does our government always get things right? No. Will they make mistakes? But
well, they get it right. They get it right, Rick, most of the time. They do. Come on. Let's give them
I
a
don't
little
wanna
bit of
make
credit here.
I don't want to make a bad punt, but you know, to make some good action, sometimes you got to break some eggs and do some mistakes. I'm sorry.
Oh, Dragon, that's a bad joke, bro. Oh, Rickster, that's bad. That's a bad joke, Rickster.
But you know, I think that there are real efforts underway to undermine trust in our institutions. I think that this protest is lending itself to that. You have political activists out there who want to undermine the authority of government. You have people out there who really just don't want to follow rules. They don't think the government should have authority to come onto farms, even in the face of a health threat or a virus outbreak. They want to be able to just deal with it on their own in their own way without intervention from any kind of authority. But if you're dealing with something like I indicated, the tomato contamination on the U.S. side yesterday that was reported, I want systems in place that protect us so that the food can be traced back to its source if you have a bacteria outbreak that is making people sick or potentially killing people. And I want those systems to be robust. I want government to have the authority to act, to go into food processing plants and shut them down if necessary if you have a listeria outbreak where people are dying as a result of getting food from that facility. I want those systems in place to protect us. I want regulations for farmers to make sure that safety standards are maintained, food quality standards are maintained to protect us. I believe we need those in place. That's my view. Now, if you want, if people want,
Rick,
it's something.
Rick, not to interrupt you, your guy last night, your star caller with Dragon on, he covered that off, I thought, beautifully. Of whether it's a buffalo, an elk, a moose, a deer, tracing it back in the food system of where was it born and the whole genetics of it. Again, I think your show last night, guys, and Dragon too, love you, bro, was incredibly informational from a factual point of view, guys. I want my food system in Canada to be safe, and that's just the way it's got to be, guys. And then my other comment is, Dragon and Rickster, when you have Mehmet Oz from the United States of America and RFK poking their big nose into sovereign Canada, putting their foot in the door in British Columbia, guys, am I off base saying, like Rick, that terrifies me? Is that not foreign interference?
Well, guys, my question is, this lady here, who I ran the clip of, Jen Prinsonson, when she says that they have a big, generous U.S. donor, funding, I guess at least a big portion of this protest, who is that person?
Are you talking the guy out of 4.3 billion out of ABC News?
I don't know. She doesn't name the person, but we've seen. But we've seen. Certainly, Mr. Castamatidis is involved. He's certainly, if he's not donating money, he is definitely platforming this issue across much of the United States, if not all of it, through the power of his radio station, which I know reaches at least, I don't know for sure, but at least 38 states, maybe even all 50 through various means, and on the internet. And that station out of New York reaches into parts of Canada as well. So it has a huge, huge reach.
But Rick, here's my question.
An American voice, an American political voice.
Here's my question, Rick and Dragon. The guy's worth what, allegedly 4.3 billion? Rickster, Dragon, he's not a stupid guy. You don't make, Rick, I don't have 4 billion in my checking account. Maybe Dragon does. I don't. He's not a stupid guy, but he's using his radio station as allegedly an Adolf Hitler propaganda machine.
Well, I don't know about Adolf. I don't want to go that far, John. I wouldn't. We don't want to go that far. No, I'm not saying that. No, we don't want to do that.
Does the guy not? Does he not know how to do any research? And Rick, what I admire about you and Dragon and the guy last night, Rick, you're not peeking in little girls' windows. You've pulled all. You're not digging in graveyards. You pulled all this ostrich information.
You're right, John. I'm not peeking in little girls' windows.
No, but Rickster, you and Dragon, you pulled up all this information on the ostrich farm from public venues. Rickster and Dragon, it's there for everybody, not just you or Dragon or the billionaire from ABC News, and it's there. You pulled it out of the public domain. You're not digging bodies up in the graveyards. Like, you've done your investigative Columbo Peter Paul.
I don't know where you're coming up with these phrases,
you.
digging up bodies in graveyards and
I love
peeking
you
at
for
girls'
that, bro.
windows and Adolf.
No,
John, I don't know.
You,
this is the strangest soliloquy I've had from you so far.
No,
this
Ricks,
is going a little bit weird, but I think I know what you're getting at. You're saying that I've done the real research.
You have done the real, true research, and it was all public domain.
Let's just say that,
Rickster.
Okay, because if we keep going down that road, I don't know where we're going to end up, and I don't really want to find out.
Rickster, everything you pulled up, everything
John,
you pulled up on this.
Zone.
but Rickster, everything you've pulled up is public domain. Is my point. It's out there for everybody.
Not just public domain. I've had to dig for the stuff and talk to people and verify things and make phone calls, engage with folks, dig stuff up. Some of but everything is verifiable. I've got definite attribution, verification. I'm not just making stuff up. And if anybody else would like to join the call, you can phone in at 1-647-734-4220, 1-647-734-4220. And then when prompted, punch in the PIN number, as you see on the bottom of the screen on the ticker, 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. And the graphic will remain up so that you can see the number to phone. And,
well, Rick, I want Hal to call in. He's got some good information. Brian, please call in from Kingston.
I got a question though.
Mm-hmm.
How does people basically in those protests are against mRNA in our foods, first of all, and don't want the WEF into their life, but basically, as I will always point out, still doing some protest for the WEF or having mRNA probably in our foods by extent or indirectly.
Dragon, this actually raises something interesting. And John, I was thinking of
great point,
over to
Dragon.
Talk about
great point, bro. Great point.
I'm going to read something. This is going to take a few minutes, so I need you guys to just sit back and listen, okay? And not interrupt, so I can read something to you. And then I'm going to ask you, I'm going to challenge you to figure out the source. And this is going to kind of flip everything upside down. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it won't. But I think it's going to make you scratch your head, okay? So let me just read this. And this is a speech that was given back in, and I'm not going to tell you who it was at this point, 2020. All right. This is an address that was given, and I won't tell you where, won't tell you from whom. We'll get into that at the end. Here it is. Excuse me. As we enter the third decade of the 21st century, humanity faces so many issues and questions that it is really hard to know what to focus on. And this is not me. Okay, this is the person who wrote this and gave this speech. So I, the person, would like to use the next 20 minutes or so, and it won't take me 20 minutes, to help us focus on all of the different issues we face. Somebody else joining us here in the chat. In the call, and who just joined us?
It's Isabel.
Isabel. Okay. Hang on. Stay there. Don't go away. Let me finish reading this. And then I'm glad you're here because I'm really looking forward to having you participate in this.
I love Isabel. She's the voice of reason.
Okay. So these three existential challenges, sorry, let me backtrack. As we enter the third decade of the 21st century, humanity faces so many issues and questions that it is really hard to know what to focus on. So I would like to use the next 20 minutes or so to help us focus on all of these different issues we face. 3 problems pose existential challenges to our species. These 3 existential challenges are nuclear war, ecological collapse, and technological disruption. We should focus on them. Now, nuclear war and ecological collapse are already familiar threats, so let me spend some time explaining the less familiar threat posed by technological disruption. We hear so much about the enormous promises of technology, and these promises are certainly real, but technology might also disrupt human society and the very meaning of human life in numerous ways, ranging from the creation of a global useless class to the rise of data colonialism and of digital dictatorships. First, we might face upheavals on the social and economic levels. Automation will soon eliminate millions upon millions of jobs. And while new jobs will certainly be created, it is unclear whether people will be able to learn the necessary new skills fast enough. Suppose you're a 50-year-old truck driver and you just lost your job to a self-driving vehicle. Now, there are new jobs in designing software or in teaching yoga to engineers, but how does a 50-year-old truck driver reinvent himself or herself as a software engineer or as a yoga teacher? And people will have to do it not just once, but again and again throughout their lives, because the automation revolution will not be a single watershed event following which the job market will settle down into a new equilibrium. Rather, it will be a cascade of even bigger disruptions because AI is nowhere near its full potential. Old jobs will disappear, new jobs will emerge, but then the new jobs will rapidly change and vanish. Whereas in the past, humans had to struggle against exploitation. In the 21st century, the really big struggle will be against irrelevance. And it is much worse to be irrelevant than exploited. Those who fail in the struggle against irrelevance would constitute a new useless class. People who are useless, not from the viewpoint of their friends and family, but useless from the viewpoint of the economic and political system. And this useless class will be separated by an ever-growing gap from the ever more powerful elite. In the 19th century, a few countries like Britain and Japan industrialized first, and they went on to conquer and exploit much of the world, most of the world. If we aren't careful, the same thing will happen in the 21st century with AI. We are already in the midst of an AI arms race with China and the USA leading the race, and most countries being left far behind. Unless we take action to distribute the benefit and power of AI between all humans, AI will likely create immense wealth in a few high-tech hubs, while other countries will either go bankrupt or become exploited data colonies. Now, we aren't talking here about a science fiction scenario of robots rebelling against humans. We are talking about far more primitive AI, which is nevertheless enough to disrupt the global balance. Although since 2020, I would say that maybe we're already on the cusp of the even more advanced ideas of robots fueled by AI. Anyway, back to the speech. Just think what will happen to developing economies once it is cheaper to produce textiles or cars in California than in Mexico. See, Trump tariffs. And what will happen to politics in your country in 20 years when somebody in San Francisco or Beijing knows the entire medical and personal history of every politician, every judge, and every journalist in your country, including all their sexual escapades, all their mental weaknesses, and all their corrupt dealings? Will it still be an independent country, or will it become a data colony? When you have enough data, you don't need to send soldiers in order to control a country. Alongside inequality, the other major danger we face is the rise of digital dictatorships that will monitor everyone all the time. This danger can be stated in the form of a simple equation, which I think might be the defining equation of life in the 21st century. B times X times D equals which means biological knowledge multiplied by computing power multiplied by data equals the ability to hack humans. If you know enough biology and have enough computing power and data, you can hack my body, my brain, my life, and you can understand me better than I understand myself. You can know my personality type, my political views, my sexual preferences, my mental weaknesses, my deepest fears and hopes. You know more about me than I know about myself, and you can do that not just to me, but to everyone. A system that understands us better than we understand ourselves can predict our feelings and decisions, can manipulate our feelings and decisions, and can ultimately make decisions for us. Now, in the past, many governments and tyrants wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough, and nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it, but soon at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals. That's what we are. The power to hack humans can be used for good purposes, like providing much better healthcare. But if this power falls into the hands of a 21st century Stalin, the result will be the worst totalitarian regime in human history. And we already have a number of applicants for the job of 21st century Stalin. Just imagine North Korea in 20 years, when everybody has to wear a biometric bracelet, which constantly monitors your blood pressure, your heart rate, your brain activity 24 hours a day. You listen to a speech on the radio by the great leader, and they know what you actually feel. You can clap your hands and smile, but if you're angry, they know you'll be in the gulag tomorrow. And if we allow the emergence of such total surveillance regimes, don't think that the rich and powerful in various places around the world will be safe. Just ask Jeff Bezos. In these totalitarian regimes, and say the USSR back in Stalin's day, the state monitored members of the communist elite more than anyone else. Yeah, the same will be true of future total surveillance regimes. The higher you are in the hierarchy, the more closely you'll be watched. Do you want your CEO or your president to know what you really think about them? So it is in the interest of all humans, including the elites, to prevent the rise of such digital dictatorships. And in the meantime, if you get a suspicious WhatsApp message from some prince, don't open it. Now, if we indeed prevent the establishment of digital dictatorships, the ability to hack humans might still undermine the very meaning of human freedom, because as humans, we rely on AI to make more and more decisions for us. Authority will shift away from humans to algorithms, and this is already happening. Already today, billions of people trust the Facebook algorithm to tell us what is new, the Google algorithm to tell us what is true. Netflix tells us what to watch, and the Amazon and Alibaba algorithms tell us what to buy. In the not so distant future, similar algorithms might tell us where to work and who to marry, and also decide whether to hire, who to hire for a job, whether to give us a loan, and whether the central bank should raise the interest rate. And if you ask why you were not given a loan and why the bank didn't raise the interest rate, the answer will always be the same, because the computer says so. And since the limited human brain lacks sufficient biological knowledge, computing power, and data, humans will simply not be able to understand the computer's decisions. So even in supposedly free countries, humans are likely to lose control over our own lives and also lose the ability to understand public policy. Already, now, how many humans understand the financial system? Maybe 1%, to be very generous. In a couple of decades, the number of humans capable of understanding the financial system will be exactly 0. Now, we humans are used to thinking about life as a drama of decision-making. What will be the meaning of human life when most decisions are taken by algorithms? We don't even have philosophical models to understand such an existence. The usual bargain between philosophers and politicians is that philosophers have a lot of fanciful ideas, and politicians basically explain that they lack the means to implement these ideas. Now we are in an opposite situation. We're facing philosophical bankruptcy. The twin revolutions of infotech and biotech are now giving politicians the means to create heaven or hell, but the philosophers are having trouble conceptualizing what the new heaven and the new hell will look like. And that's a very dangerous situation. If we fail to conceptualize the new heaven quickly enough, we might be easily misled by naive utopias. And if we fail to conceptualize the new hell quickly enough, we might find ourselves entrapped there with no way out. Finally, technology might disrupt not just our economy, politics, and philosophy, but also our biology. Now, we talked about this last night, right? Hacking the birds, the immune systems of the chickens. In the coming decades, AI and biotechnology will give us godlike abilities to re-engineer life and even to create completely new life forms. After 4 billion years of organic life shaped by natural selection, we are about to enter a new era of inorganic life shaped by intelligent design. Our intelligent design is going to be the new driving force of the evolution of life. And in using our new divine powers of creation, we might make mistakes on a cosmic scale. In particular, governments, corporations, and armies are likely to use technology to enhance human skills that they need, like intelligence and discipline, while neglecting other human skills like compassion, artistic sensitivity, and spirituality. The result might be a race of humans who are very intelligent and very disciplined, but lack compassion, lack artistic sensitivity, and lack spiritual depth. Of course, this is not a prophecy. These are just possibilities. Technology is never deterministic. In the 20th century, people used the same industrial technology to build very different kinds of societies: fascist dictatorships, communist regimes, liberal democracies. The same thing will happen in the 21st century. AI and biotech will certainly transform the world, but we can use them to create very different kinds of societies. And if you're afraid of some of the possibilities I've mentioned, you can still do something about it. But to do something effective, we need cooperation. All the three existential challenges we face are global problems that demand global solutions. Whether a leader says something like, "My country first," Donald Trump, I'm saying Donald Trump part, we should remind that, and Putin for that matter, we should remind that leader that no nation can prevent nuclear war or stop ecological collapse by itself, and no nation can regulate AI and bioengineering by itself. Almost every country will say, "Hey, we don't want to develop killer robots or to genetically engineer human babies. We are the good guys, but we can't trust our rivals not to do it, so we must do it first." If we allow such an arms race to develop in fields like AI and bioengineering, it doesn't really matter who wins the arms race. The loser will be humanity. Unfortunately, just when global cooperation is needed more than ever before, some of the most powerful leaders and countries in the world are now deliberately undermining global cooperation. Leaders like the US president tell us that there is an inherent contradiction between nationalism and globalism, and that we should choose nationalism and reject globalism. But this is a dangerous mistake. There is no contradiction between nationalism and globalism, because nationalism isn't about hating foreigners. Nationalism is about loving your compatriots. And in the 21st century, in order to protect the safety and the future of your compatriots, you must cooperate with foreigners. So in the 21st century, good nationalists must also be globalists. Now, globalism doesn't mean establishing a global government, abandoning all national traditions, or opening the border to unlimited immigration. Rather, globalism means a commitment to some global rules that don't deny the uniqueness of each nation, but only regulate the regulations between nations. And a good model is the football World Cup. The World Cup is a competition between nations, and people often show fierce loyalty to their national team. But at the same time, the World Cup is also an amazing display of global harmony. France can't play football against Croatia unless the French and Croatians agree on the same rules for the game. And that's globalism in action. If you like the World Cup, you're already a globalist. Now, hopefully, nations could agree on global rules, not just for football, but also how to prevent ecological collapse, how to regulate dangerous technologies, and how to reduce global inequality. How to make sure, for example, that AI benefits Mexican textile workers and not only American software engineers. Now, of course, this is going to be much more difficult than football, but not impossible, because the impossible, well, we have already accomplished the impossible. We have already escaped the violent jungle in which we humans have lived throughout history. For thousands of years, humans lived under the law of the jungle, in a condition of omnipresent war. The law of the jungle said that for every 2 nearby countries, there is a plausible scenario that will go to war against each other next year. Under this law, peace meant only the temporary absence of war. When there was peace between, say, Athens and Sparta, or France and Germany, it meant that now they are not at war, but next year they might be. And for thousands of years, people had assumed that it was impossible to escape this law. But in the last few decades, humanity has managed to do the impossible, to break that law and to escape the jungle. We have built the rules-based liberal global order that, despite many imperfections, has nevertheless created the most prosperous and most peaceful era in human history. The very meaning of the word peace has changed. Peace no longer means just the temporary absence of war. Peace now means the implausibility of war. Well, maybe not so much today. There are many countries that you simply cannot imagine going to war against each other next year, like France and Germany, Canada and the United States. Even that, now 5 years later, I'm not so sure. There are still wars in some parts of the world. And this guy says, okay, I've said enough. Okay, it's right near the end. I'll just wrap it up here. Of course, anyway, I'll leave it there. No, I won't. I'll read the rest because there's only a few paragraphs. Unfortunately, we've gotten so used to this wonderful situation that we take it for granted, and we are therefore becoming extremely careless. Instead of doing everything we can to strengthen the fragile global order, countries neglect it and even deliberately undermine it. The global order is now like a house that everybody inhabits and nobody repairs. It can hold on for a few more years, but if we continue like this, it will collapse. And we will find ourselves back in the jungle of omnipresent war. We have forgotten what it's like, but believe me, as a historian, this guy's a historian, you don't want to be back there. It's far, far worse than you imagine. Yes, our species has evolved in that jungle and lived, even prospered there for thousands of years. But if we return there now with the powerful new technologies of the 21st century, our species will probably annihilate itself. Of course, even if we disappear, it will not be the end of the world. Something will survive us. Perhaps the rats will eventually take over and rebuild civilization. Perhaps then the rats will learn from our mistakes. But I very much hope we can rely on the leaders assembled around the world and not on the rats. So first, comment on that. Isabel, you first.
I already feel we're hacked, and I'll tell you why. Anybody that got the juice, each one of those jabs came with a barcode. I don't know if anybody knew that. But it came with a barcode.
What do you mean a barcode, Isabel?
A barcode on the injection itself. There was a little tab of paper. And on the little tab of paper was your name that also accompanied a barcode. When you look up your jab...
Hang on, just a moment. I don't want to talk about this because we're on YouTube. And we're going to get banned.
Oh, I thought you were on Rumble.
We are, but we're on YouTube too. So I don't really want to go down that road at all.
Okay.
And I'll discuss that with you. Maybe give me a call and we'll have a chat about it. Okay.
Yeah, I can do that. All this integration and all this push, it does seem like we are going to be on the bottom of the chain of life because it's moving so damn fast.
Okay, let me pause you there for a moment and just let me ask you guys something. What did the message, the overall message from that speech, what do you think that person is trying to do? Is that person trying to warn us about the dangers ahead?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
John, do you think that person's trying to warn us?
I think, Rick, you may need to read it again a couple of times, but I think it's a big wake-up call, is it not, sir?
Yeah, I think he's trying to warn us that these are dangerous technologies and dangerous times ahead, and that we need to get a handle on things, right?
I will tell you what I think, and tell me if I'm wrong. But we are entering into an era of basically a informatic and technologic cult.
Are you still there, Dragon? I think we lost you.
Yeah. You there, Dragon?
Yeah, I'm there.
I can.
You seem to cut out.
You there, Dragon? I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Rick.
Technology. Okay, so.
All right.
All right. So yeah, he's trying to warn us about AI. He's trying to warn us about governments maybe making human beings obsolete. That in the future, and actually, the one big beautiful bill coming from Trump really kind of addresses this, because hidden in all of that, all the stuff that's in that huge bill that encompasses so many different things it actually, I think, is going to result in a reduction of spending for social programs, especially for the poor, and increased tax cuts for wealthy people, with the idea that it's going to stimulate the economy, but it's also a response to rising government debt. But that's kind of the sidebar. I'm trying to get to a point here. I'm trying to just make a point after reading you all of that. What side of things do you think this person is on? Concerned, I guess, about all of the developments ahead of us, right? He's worried about.
I think they're on the side of preserving humanity. Because when I see all this stuff and I hear everything with the AI and it taking over, and then you see the younger generation who so quickly linked on to their phone in their hand. And I mean, now you can't replace the battery, so you literally can't turn your phone off. You cannot disconnect yourself because the battery is no longer removable. And when I researched that, they all did it at the same time. Apple and Android did it all at the same time. Why? Surveillance? So
Good
yeah,
question.
I think this guy is trying to be aware, wake you up, shake you up. Sure, technology is great, but in the wrong hands, it is not. And I don't think it's in the right hands. And I don't think it was implied to be in the right hands.
Well, Isabel, Rimby, John, or I got a Motorola phone. I'm a Motorola guy, not Apple. Isabel,
Me either.
Thank you so much we love you from Alberta, my dear. We love you. This Richter Dragon, Isabel, this AI thing, I'm a dinosaur. I'm a child of the 60s. It scares me. It scares the crap out of me. And we talked the other night about Hudson Bay. I'm a dinosaur. I like dealing with a real live person. Isabel, it scares me. Rick.
Well, okay.
And Dragon, I think you're a lot younger than we are. It scares me.
Yeah, I understand. It's disruptive and it's worrisome. Some of it scares me too. But you got to roll with the punches and adapt. And we will. Human beings always have. It is, scary. I'm not sure what's coming, but somehow we'll survive.
No, you don't.
That's my view. But here's the thing. Any idea who might have been the person behind that speech?
I'm not sure, but is it the same guy that said the other day on the clip that you have shown, who said that we need to, we can be hackable?
You think that's who said that? You think that's the guy who delivered that speech?
Bill Gates?
You think that's Bill Gates?
Musk? Elon? Come on, Isabel. What's the question here?
I definitely don't think it's the guy that Dragon is talking about.
No.
Because that guy was all for it.
Yeah.
Has to be a layman, I would think.
Yeah, because all those clips that we've seen of what's that guy's name? Yuval Noah Harari. That guy.
Yeah.
That's the clip I ran last night. Like all the clips that we've seen of him have been that he's in favor of all these things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. He's the one that kept preaching even back in the beginning. Humans were hackable.
Yep.
So
I can't see that it would be him.
Yeah, and he's with the World Economic Forum and so could not possibly
Rick,
be him.
Rick, again, who are you talking about?
The guy who gave the speech. I'm trying to. Do you have any idea who it was?
I see. Okay.
Do you have any idea?
I'm
not sure, but
this guy warning us about the future in AI, how people are going to lose their jobs, how everybody's going to be displaced. You're going to have to reinvent yourself and develop new skills that we could all, many people could become useless or irrelevant, which is worse than being exploited, because at least if you're exploited, you get a paycheck of some kind, right? But if you're irrelevant, you might not even qualify for a welfare check because the people in power might decide that you're just not worth the welfare check. You're
That wouldn't be
useless either at that
Zuckerberger.
point. That's what he's saying.
Like Rick, it's not the billionaire with he's got what 800 billion in the bank. Not that old guy in his 90s. I can't think of his name. White-haired guy, you know.
Warren Buffett.
Bill Gates.
Rockefeller?
Yeah, Warren. It's not Warren, is it? Rickster?
No, it's not Warren Buffett.
Oh, thank the Lord. Okay.
It's not Zuckerberger.
No, it's not Zuckerberger.
The only other one I could think of would be Bill Gates.
You think Bill Gates would give a speech like that? Mr. Microsoft, Mr.
Know-it-all.
Rickster, was it the orange orangutan?
No, it wasn't Trump.
Okay, not as okay.
I bring this up because everything going on out of that farm doesn't seem to make sense. Everything going on out of that research farm, it's the stuff that people with the Freedom Convoy, the Freedom Movement, since the pandemic, that's all the stuff that everybody's been fighting against. And yet they're ignoring it. The COVID research, all of the stuff they've been doing out there. They're like pretending it hasn't been going on. Like they don't mention it. Mr. Castamatidis with his radio program doesn't talk about it at all. Hasn't mentioned it. It's like, can't talk about that. And if you do, you'll get attacked.
Yep.
And everything's upside down. It doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
Nothing makes any bloody sense. I point that out because I'm going to show you in a moment who gave that speech. And then this might surprise you. Yeah.
Now, Rick, breaking news. Isabel Dragon, the Ontario cricket farm is bankrupt.
John, I reported that 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or longer. I've talked about it 3 times over the past month. So I appreciate it, but yeah, let's stay on topic. Stay focused. Stay with me. We're going somewhere. Okay, so I don't want to go over there because we're right here right now.
We going in that Mustang? Let's go.
I guess I'll just cut to the chase.
We're stumped.
You're stumped?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll show you. And I hope this makes you think, because it makes me think. It's that guy. It is Yuval Noah Harari. So Dragon was right. That's his speech.
What?
Don't you?
Rick, who is that?
Harari.
Who is that? You don't know?
Harari. Oh my, I never would have believed that.
Yeah, Isabel. I hope that makes everybody think tonight, because you're quite right also when you say that all the clips that we see have been telling us they've been edited in a way to make us hate this guy, to make us to demonize him, even to dehumanize him, to the point where people want to string him up and execute him in some cases. A lot of people want this guy dead. They hate him so much. Like a lot of people. Because they believe he's the embodiment of pure evil.
Yeah. Demonic was my word.
Mm-hmm.
So every clip we saw and everything they pushed from the WEF.
Alex Jones.
Wow.
So I just read you his speech. This is a speech he delivered at Davos in 2020. And this is where his hackable animals clip that we ran last night came from.
Mm-hmm.
Humans as hackable animals.
Does he not realize?
He's not.
That's
see,
what
the point is here, we're in an information war.
Yeah.
And the clips have been all taken out of context to make him look like he is in favor of these things when he's not in favor. He's just warning us. He's telling us, whether we like it or not, the technology is there. Whether we like it or not, these things are coming. Yep. And we need to be aware and we need to prepare. He's warning us. He's telling us this stuff we need to get a handle on. We need to maybe regulate it. We need to maybe even stop some of it. We need to prevent these wars. We need to work together. He's warning us. He's not sitting there saying, hey, all of you evil people at Davos, look at what we can do to screw people over, to depopulate the earth, to kill everyone, to control the population, because we're the evil globalists. That's not his message at all. Quite the opposite. You see, he's basically a philosopher and futurist, and he's just delivering this message of warning. If you go read his stuff, it's not what you're told.
But Rickster, Rimsjohn, Dragon, thank you for translating that.
John, can we stay on topic, please?
Interview.
Can we stay on topic, please? John.
Yeah, awesome.
You got to stay on topic. Okay.
That is scary.
Why does that scare you, Isabel?
Because I see this more and more and more. I have grandchildren, and they're very gullible, because they've grown up in the technological age.
Yeah,
mine too, Isabel. Mine too.
And because they were locked down for 4 years, the only communication they had was in their damn hand.
Yeah.
So they've been fed this tidbit by tidbit, and now they can't come out of this cycle. So they don't have the compass mentis, as I would say, to research. They believe what their eyes tell them and not what research would tell them. I mean, when we grew up, I'm old school. I'm going to be 73 this year. And you wanted something, you went and you researched it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I had parents that said, what are you, that damn gullible? I mean, don't believe everything you read. Find out for yourself, which how I was raised. But the kids today are falling into this. You just look at TikTok. What do they spend their time doing?
Yeah.
That reveals to me exactly what I told you a moment ago. We are into a technological and information cult. And basically what we are is basically being fed by a guru. And the guru is basically what you watch on TikTok, like you said, or whatever else. And we believe everything that we see because it's so well produced and so well edited, like what Rick just showed us, because everyone thinks that this guy is so evil because of the little clip that we see. But at the end of the day, when you read all that, you see where the warning is and where we are at since the beginning.
But Dragon AI, you're right on the money. I'm very, very fortunate person. I have no children, never been married. I have an adopted family. I have a 27-year-old grandchild and a 20 and it's been brainwashed in Isabel, this woke culture in elementary school. And Isabel, it scares me. My adopted granddaughter's been going to psychologists. And
John, are you okay?
It's all good.
Okay, let's hey John, let's just kind of chill for a minute or two so we can deal with something else here. Okay, just bear with me. I'm going to show you something else, Isabel. This is kind of related to your barcode thing, actually. Not that I really want to get into. I have to be careful what we say because we're on YouTube. I'm going to show you something. All right. Hang on. Let me pull this back. Let me get rid of this. I'm going to show you something here. This, I know, scares the living daylights out of people. Let me bring it up. Okay. Yeah. Got to make sure I got the right one. You are aware of the graphene oxide thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty scary stuff here.
It's scary
I'm
shit.
sure you've seen this, right? To do with the jabby jab.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen this video? The self-assembling graphene under 5G.
Yep.
Okay. Let me just run the video for you. Got to make sure I got the right one. Here we go. I'll make it full screen for you. So this is I think most people have seen this, but I'm going to run this. So that's that's the graphene oxide that they say has been injected into us, whoever got the jabby jab.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to come up on my TV. My TV runs behind it.
Yeah, of course, you got a delay.
It's slow, Joe.
It's gross, Isabel. Gross.
So you've seen this, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Scared
Creepy.
shitless, I'll tell you.
Creepy.
Because I'm number 3. So this scares me.
Did you get the jabby jab?
3.
Yeah. I didn't get the jabby jab.
I wish I hadn't. I'm a homeopathic, you know that, and I should never have done this.
I'm trying to remember what was. There's a, believe a virus that looks similar, but I don't remember.
Well, I might have something to make you feel a little bit better, maybe a little bit worse. I'm not sure, Isabel.
Okay.
This will make
Rex, a puppy dog, please, a puppy dog.
No, John. No, this is not a puppy dog. Just stay with me, okay? I'm going to show you that what you just watched is a hoax. It's a big fat lie. Another big fat lie.
Paper.
It's not graphene oxide at all. So for all of you Alex Jones fans out there, and those who follow some of these other people, I've never told anybody that was graphene oxide. It's not. And what that is actually a repurposed video of a self-assembling wire experiment. What that is, as you can see here, self-assembling wires. That exact video, I was actually some time ago, I just wasn't prepared for this tonight, but you can find that exact video posted 3 years prior to its use, repurposed, pirated use, where they're portraying it as graphene oxide self-assembling under 5G, when in reality, 3 years prior, it was originally posted as a self-assembling wire experiment, which all this is. And I will run this for you. And you can see this is the exact same thing done in a different location. This is just electricity coming through wires, through alligator clips, into wires, into this solution. And that is just very, very small steel shot, just little round pieces of steel. And
shot with electricity to make them move.
And structure forms.
This is the experiment. They've do this. I don't know if this one might be from Stanford University. I'm not sure. There are a bunch of these. You can find them. It's the exact same thing. And you can find the exact same video that I just showed you, which is the one that has been used most often by social media influencers who are trying to scare the living crap out of you about the jabby jab and the 5G stuff, especially the 5G stuff.
Well, they did a good one on me after the last one, which was quite a few years ago. They did a good one on me, and it threw me into something I have never had in my life, which was an anxiety attack.
Well, don't get anxious. Just get real, Isabel.
Well, you know what I've done since then?
This whole video here explains the whole thing and how it works, and it's not that complicated. It's magnetism through electricity. That's all it is. Yeah. But they have people convinced that it's something other than what it is. Now, look, I didn't get the jabby jab for one reason, because I didn't feel that enough time had passed for them to properly test it. And I don't like anything that's not properly tested. So I'm, you know, I just, everything that, you know, any kind of medication can and probably does have some side effects. And I don't know what those will be in the short, medium, and long term. So I just, out of caution for myself, my personal choice, I decided not to get the jabby jab. I don't judge people like you, Isabel, and I don't judge people like you, John. You guys got it. I didn't. A lot of people didn't.
Well,
Some people did, but I don't judge
Rickster,
you.
hang on a little bit, Rickster.
Yes.
Isabel, I'm with you. I had full blown the thing.
Hey, John.
And then
John, it sounds like you're getting a little dopey on us here. Are you okay?
No.
Yeah, I
I'm great.
think you're maybe getting a little tired. Maybe we should, you know, just refrain. Maybe wrap things up quickly for us. You okay?
Well, I was just going to say, you remember when you were a kid and you would have filings of metal and you would draw with a magnet under the paper to make them move.
That's all it is, Isabel. That's all it is.
And you could mesmerize a kid for hours going, oh, look at this. No, look at that.
That's all it is.
I had to put my mind into a positive mode and said, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen. I can't control it. Just move on.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, it's a toy called Etch a Sketch.
Yes, there's that one.
There's that one too. Yep. Magnetism. It's an old parlor trick.
Yeah, it is.
Guys.
I mean, I came out of the anxiety shit and I just did like that. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Because if I keep going this way, I'm going to lose it. Yeah. Literally going to lose it.
Stay with me, guys. I'm here to bring you closer to the truth. That's what the job
and you always
is here.
do.
So, you can call me. We'll have a discussion about the barcode stuff as well. But I don't really want to have that on YouTube. That being said, guys, let's go around the horn for a final thought or two here tonight as we bring this epic Maverick News broadcast to a conclusion.
You're too nice, Rickster. You're too nice.
Yes. You will have to email me your phone number and I can tell you that stuff.
Okay. All right. And Dragon, bring us home, my friend.
Well,
don't crack us up there, Dragon.
And then John, no. John's got to give us his joke at the end. I forgot.
Oh,
almost forgot. So hang on there. John. Don't go anywhere.
Can I go number 3, Rickster, or number 1?
Go last. Dragon, give us a quick final thought. Very quick.
You want me to give you a last final thought? Well, I'll go with Conan
I want
Doyle.
the Trump. Dragon, I want your Trump impression, bro.
No Trump tonight, my friend, because I got something to tell you. Yeah. I'm going to try to be as serious as I can be, so I will not mess this up. So basically what Conan Doyle said, whatever remain impossible after everything has been found is the truth. So always stay tuned because we always have the truth for you guys.
Okay.
Oh, right. And John, give us the epic joke.
Well, hang on. Is Isabel next or I'm the last?
Isabel, it's your turn. Wrap it up. Stay focused. Just tell us the joke and then stop. And then we're going to
No, it's Isabel next or I'm
no,
number 2?
John. Like I said, I think you're getting a little tired. Just tell us the joke, please.
So Rickster, Dragon, Isabel. So you all know who Pierre Polyev is. You know, he's our conservative, constructive. So Isabel, Dragon, Rickster. So what's the difference between Pierre Polyev and the toilet, Isabel? Isabel, I'm waiting.
I have no idea.
What's the difference
Give us the
between
punchline,
Pierre
John.
Polyev
It's
and a toilet? Well,
what's the difference?
A toilet has a seat.
Okay.
In Parliament.
There you go.
Oh,
Okay.
did you get that joke, bro?
And with that, ladies and
Dragon,
gentlemen,
I
we wrap
love you,
up for
man.
the
I
night.
love you.
I will be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, with
On the
more
flip side.
information that
Orange
will hopefully
orangutan.
get us closer to the truth. I'll see you at 7
Orange
p.m.
orangutan.
Eastern tomorrow on
Orange
the
orangutan. Orange
Flip side.
orangutan. Orange orangutan. Orange orangutan.
Okay, John.
Orange
On
orangutan.
the
Oh,
Flip side.
flip side.
Monkey see, monkey do. Vladimir Putin's making a fool out of you. Once a deal maker, now just a shouter. Used to shake hands, now it's all about power. You turn your back on your friends and your allies too. You betrayed the spirit of the red, white, and blue. Oh, orange orangutan man, swinging through the world with a heavy hand. Tearing up treaties, slapping on tariffs, throwing tantrums like a billionaire sheriff. Tell it down, don't stop it, man, you beast, you critter. Orange orangutan man. Donald Trump 1.0 had a plan. Now Donald J. Trump 2.0's a wrecking man. Used to make deals, now you just sneer. Ruling through fear, grinning ear to ear. Canada's not for sale, Greenland ain't yours. Gaza's not a playground, quit making wars. Bluffing and puffing with a wig on tight. Acting like a boss, but you lost the fight. The art of the deal, man, that ship sunk. Now it's all about rage and a nuclear funk. Orange orangutan man, swinging through the world with a heavy hand. Tearing up treaties, slapping on tariffs, throwing tantrums like a billionaire sheriff. Dial it down, don't stop it, man, you beast, you critter. Orange orangutan man. You're fired. No, you're just bananas.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.